too hot here.
All right, let's get day 2 started. I'll ask our clerk to please do a roll call.
Councilor Tesher. Here. Councilor Taylor. Here. Councilor Vega is absent. Councilor Teneri Garcia.
Present.
Councilor Sanigat.
Here.
Councilor Jimenez Rivera. Present. Councilor De Jesus.
Present.
Councilor Brown is absent. Councilor Recupero. Here. Councilor Kelly Garcia is absent. Councilor Robinson. Here. 8 members present. You have a quorum. The Chelsea City Council will hold a meeting of the Subcommittee on Conference on Tuesday, May 14th at 6 p.m. to discuss the proposed fiscal year 2025 budget.
All right, day 2, kick us off, City Manager.
Thank you so much, Council. Day 2 of the budget. This night is going to be packed. I will hand it off to our Deputy City Manager of Finance to get us started.
Thank you, Mr. Fidel Maltez. Good evening, honorable city councilors, community members, and staff that are here present and maybe watching virtually. Welcome to budget hearings at night 2. And yes, we do have a stacked schedule. On your, in front of you, you would have received councilors' a schedule for this evening with all the different presentations we're going to have tonight, and with the page numbers that is outlined where we'll start for each budget section. For this evening, we're going to start with our treasurer collector, which she will go over a few different segments, which is treasury, payroll, and I believe insurance. Thank you. Welcome. Now I hand it over to Patrice Montifosco.
Good evening, everybody.
And this is on page 79 of your book, page 79.
The first one is the treasurer collector's budget. We have 7 employees in the treasurer collector's office, and right now we have 2 personnel changes. Lorenzo has left our office, and we've gotten Juliana from the assessors. And our Beatrice is moving up to the law department, and that job is open at the present time. One of our accomplishments this year has been interest income. We've been trying to increase our interest income for the last 2 years. Last year, it went from $299,000 to $2.3 million, and this year so far, we've collected interest income of $3.5 million with our investments. Our budget, the total overall budget is up 5% entirely, and the big increase in that is the 4% in the software on our tax title, the last item in the budget, the tax title. The software has gone up, so our budget has gone up. I don't know if anybody would have any questions on that.
Thank you, Patrice. I'll start off with Councilor Sandagate's corner.
Yeah, no questions, thank you.
Any questions, councilors?
No questions from me.
On this side? Oh, yes, Councilor Jimenez.
So I just had one question. I just had the line item that says the city is in a tax-exempt energy conservation lease agreement with Bank of America. I just wanted to know what that was.
Can we talk about that? Yes, so we went into a loan agreement, essentially. It is for a contract with Amoresco for the microgrid phase 1. I believe that was approved by the council. I don't recall exactly when, but it was approved. It's on schedule to be installed. And what will happen is we are going to install a battery storage system here in City Hall, and then a battery storage system at the police station, as well as solar panels on the city yard. We meet with the contractor regularly. The solar panels in the city yard should be installed by the end of the summer, and the batteries at City Hall and the police station should be installed by the end of this year.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilor Recupero?
What is banking services? So
Councilor, use your mic, please. Councilor,
Banks?
use your mic, please.
What is it? What is banking service? Because it went up 25.7%, what is that?
Most of it's our lockbox services where we collect, the banks collect on our lockbox and we have to pay the fees on them.
You mean the bank's law department take care of that?
Well, our bank directly, no, but if they pay online, it's an online fee.
And they charge that much money?
Well, we collect a lot online, so if it's 20 cents per item and we're collecting 20,000 items, it adds up.
And one more question. You spent $4,000, you think, this year on advertising. What do you advertise?
Our tax
How to pay your
title,
bills?
our tax title notices, if anybody's delinquent in their taxes, we have to put a full page or 2 pages out there, and it runs between
How many times do you do that a year?
once a year, but sometimes we record it twice if need be. If there's an error, we have to do a reduction.
So that's your advertisement, is that, to get the delinquent money from people that owe it?
That's correct.
All right, that's it, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions?
I have one other question.
Councilor Jimenez?
I just want to make sure that I understand. So the online, pay, like when I go to pay a
You're
fine
not
or
the
something-
city website. The city website's free. It's if you pay to the lockbox company directly. You use your credit card.
Okay, okay. And is that, sorry, that's a different system than when I go to like pay a parking ticket,
Right.
right? And so for like the parking ticket, is that also managed
Now,
through
the
your?
parking ticket is through a separate system altogether, and those
Okay.
are fee access, yeah.
Got
Those
it.
are fees not to the city, but to the company.
Got it. And okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Patrice.
And we'll now move on to payroll, which is on page 83.
Okay, so the payroll department has 2 employees, and one of the accomplishments so far in that department is every employee has their own folder now on our site, and we've done away with the paper copies, so everything is in one section, so everybody can look up each individual employee and get all their information from start to finish. Their budget has gone up a total of 6%, and it's all salary step increases. Everything else has stayed the same. Be any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
We will now move to liability insurance on page 248.
This budget is for the city's insurance for the general liability for the city, and it has gone up 5% compared to other years, which was 10 or 12%. The school department has taken on some of this for us, so our budget is only up 5% this year.
Councilor Jimenez?
Is the schools taking on some part of this? Is that a change, or has that been?
No, they usually take on a portion of it, but this year, theirs has increased more than ours, so they took on the increase.
Got it.
We
Okay.
usually help them, but they took on our increase.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Any questions? Councilor Recupero?
I'm gonna ask you, what is insurance general liability? What's that? What are we insuring? The
Buildings,
employees?
cars, everything the city owns. The buildings, the cars, the schools.
So each individual department insures themselves?
I'm sorry?
I say, insurance general liability, doesn't the city take care of that?
Yes.
This is the budget for it.
But
That is the
in-
line.
In your department, you insure cars?
No, no,
No, it's the insurance for the whole city.
right. So it's insurance for the building, for example, you know, if
It
anything.
comes out of your money?
No, this is a separate line that I take care of. As the treasurer, I take care of the insurance.
You take care of it, but it doesn't come out of your department?
No, it's a separate line altogether.
Who takes care of that?
I pay for it through the city, under this
You pay
budget.
for it, but it's actually not part of your department?
No, it's not treasurer
So this
collector.
covers everybody in the city?
Yes.
Correct.
But they have it under you, okay, I understand. Since you're the treasurer, you're the holder of the money.
She holds all the money.
All right, seeing no other questions? Thank you, Patrice.
Thank you. Have a good night.
All right. Now we'll move on to procurement, and we'll have Drajika Ivanis, our Chief Procurement Officer. Welcome.
Good evening.
You can find the procurement budget on page 70.
So the big change in this budget is that we are requesting an additional body. This person that we are requesting for is a purchasing agent. What we have found, particularly as more money has come into the city with ARPA and with ESSER funds, as well as just the additional grants that we are getting, which is a good thing for us. The amount of work that has to be handled by the purchasing department as well as the auditing department has increased significantly. We have some stats in terms of the number of contracts that are going out, the amount of purchase orders, and the workload has just increased significantly. And we are requesting an additional position in this department as part of this budget.
If you have any questions? Sure.
Who works in your department?
Right now, there's 3 positions. My name is Dragica Ivanish. Let me introduce myself. Good evening. I'm the Chief Procurement Officer. I have the Assistant Procurement Officer and the Office Manager.
And so you got, these are the ones that are listed on page 73, right?
That's correct. There are currently 3 people in the office. We are proposing that this office goes to 4 people.
4 people, that's what it's to be determined, right?
That's right. If approved by the council,
And that
we would
position's
hire a
only gonna be
purchasing agent.
$5,000?
No.
That position is going to be partially paid for by the schools.
Oh, so that's the school, and the total amount's gonna be 83,000.
It is going to be shared by the schools. That's correct.
But I know, the school's only sharing 5. So I thought Loudest worked with you.
So our purchasing office handles all procurement for the city, so schools and also for us, for the police department, for the fire department, for everyone.
So this Lourdes is actually a different Lourdes. So
Oh,
you're
there's a
thinking.
different one. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So this is Lourdes Garcia. She originally worked in the school department at one point, who then eventually came over to the procurement office.
So let me ask you a question. How much stuff are we purchasing?
Well, if you think about how
That you
many,
need 3 people.
I did a little bit of analysis for the example to show you the budget that you're reviewing and approving every year. So going back, if I can find my paper, how much the budget has been increased since 2022. If you want me to give you the budget city was 89 million plus, budget school was 107 million plus, overall was 196 million plus. In the proposed FY25, you have the budget city expenses approved at 104 plus million. The budget school is 140 million plus, and the total overall is 245 million plus.
So the load is that heavy that you needed somebody else, an additional $83,000?
That is correct,
Yeah.
Councilor. Yeah, and adding on top of this, the ARPA funds that we get.
so if I may add, so with the additional ARPA funds, and those funds they're more stringent rules, they're more intensive to actually manage. So in order to better reduce the risk of the city, we do need the additional position.
I mean,
And
I'm sorry for
And on,
interrupting you.
yeah, and on top of not just the ARPA funding, so ARPA funding was about 41 million, on top of what the schools received, which was another 20 million in terms of the COVID-19 grants. But then you have additional funding for grants the city gets in general to provide services. And so each grant has its own rules too. And
Okay.
so it's hard for a department of this size to manage both schools and city. In a lot of structures, you would have about a department that has about the same FTEs, but it would be split between two different departments. But since it's centralized, this is actually right-sizing this department.
So what happens is, this position is being granted, right? It's from a grant?
No, this position is being funded by both the city side and the school side. So,
Well, the school side only gives $5,000.
no, the school side is given majority of this funds.
Okay, Counselor?
So they work for both, right? They'll be the school and that.
This role will be primarily providing support for schools, but it'll be located in the purchasing department because of the level of load work coming from the schools, but also understanding that ARPA has been complex and trying to manage the procurement of that.
You know why I say that? Because we keep increasing. Sometimes we might have to decrease. And these jobs are not little jobs. They're $100,000 a whack. You know what I mean? They're not like $40,000 job. They're like big jobs. They put big money.
And also, you have to take into consideration, if your budget is increasing, how much one person can take on all the projects.
But you have computers now that help you out.
Counselor?
I have to follow the procurement laws, and
You know, the human beings are being phased out. Computers are coming in.
Okay, Counselor, can we keep it to questions, please? Are we done?
No, that's,
No?
one more question. Over here, years ago, I remember you had some type of fund, right, that allowed you to go to conferences? Did they take that away from you?
no, it's still here,
But I don't see it here.
$250.
So it's on page 72. And you can see it up on the screen if you want to look up over here.
And it didn't increase at all, huh? You must
We
go
did
nowhere.
not touch it.
Okay. All right.
They're too busy doing all the work.
Huh?
They're too busy
When
working.
When they go on conferences, right, what are kind of conference do they have? What do they ask? How many pencils they sold?
All right.
No, that's not.
I'm playing with you. No more
Okay.
questions.
All right. Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions? Counselor Teshi.
You know, I walk around the building often, and every time I walk by your office and the door's open, I always see something going on, right? You're always busy. So definitely thank you so much for the work you do. Really appreciate that. I think, you know, for handling the whole city and the school department as of now, you know, you've done a tremendous job. I think, you know, we're all grateful, right, for the work you do. I think, you know, one of the questions I would just have is, with the new position, I think it's definitely needed, right, for the work you do, but I'm wondering what type of requirements would you make for this position, as in what type of bachelor's degree, what type of background?
Absolutely, to have a college degree, but also to be MCPPO certified.
Hey, what?
MCPPO certified.
Would you mind explaining what that
That's
is?
that's the certification that I'm carrying, and you have to have those when you have to be a person and delegate the job that I have right now for all the procurements, and a certain, like, request for proposals, other person wouldn't be able to do it without carrying this certification, so I have to be certified. So in my absence, this person, if we to hired, they would be doing all the jobs and tasks that I've been doing. So right now, Mr. Recupero, no vacation for me since I started.
Yeah.
Just for those that may be tuning in, and just for clarification, MCPPO stands for Massachusetts Certified Public Procurement Official. And that is a program that's ran by the Inspector General's office for the state of Massachusetts.
Okay, got you. No, I mean, ideally, we'd like to find somebody from Chelsea and get them that certification and then have that job filled. Yeah, those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Taylor.
Yes, I just have one quick question. And thank you for your service to the city. We appreciate it. Part of the justification for the new position was that the ARPA funds require more management because there's more strings attached to the money. So what happens to this permanent job in '26 when there's no more ARPA funds to manage?
I will say, Councilor, that what's happening right now is that we are struggling to get all of the work out. So as you know, we have to bid everything out, right? Particularly as it applies to grants, because the requirements are more stringent. So each one of those bids have to be written out, reviewed. They have to be advertised, posted. They have to be opened, verified, and to be honest, what is happening now is that we are having a hard time getting the work out the door, to the point where Michael is going to give you an overview of where we stand with ARPA funds, but we have a very tight...
Too many governmental hoops to jump through?
Too much money to move, right? And too much money that we don't want to lose. So we particularly over the next 8 months, we got to move fast, because we do not want to give any of that money back.
Yeah, I understand that, but that wasn't my question. My question was, what happens in '26 when we have a full-time job that was supposed to be to help handle these funds, and so I understand the need to do it now. What's going to happen then?
So, can I jump in real quick? And then you can maybe jump in
okay.
if I miss anything. So, based on my previous experience, I would say that there's been substantial uptick of work in that department due to many factors beyond what I stated earlier. So, coming from the school side, I was able to see that as our buildings are aging, right, there are more projects that come from those buildings, right? And so the schools have specific needs that tax this department. And then there's priorities that have to be determined and set when you have competing requirements or competing projects between the city and school side. So remove any ARPA-related funding from this. There was a problem that pre-existed before, and we could not actually meet those demands currently. So this particular role is going to help with sustainability of to be able to continue forward with this department operating efficiently. Imagine if we couldn't get a purchase order out to pay a bill that would keep the lights on, right? Right now, we're able to determine how to do that, right? But this will help the city actually operate more efficiently.
Okay, so the specific problems that you were having pre-COVID, that we were letting things slip by, and there wasn't any, things were not getting paid for, and people were going without things that we needed. Is that correct?
So things were not getting slipped by. I would say that there might have been things that were sacrificed to get work done, right? So now adding the additional capacity, you're able to do a more thorough review.
But can you be more specific in what you're saying?
So
I mean,
I'll give an
explain
example.
it to me,
Sure,
because
sure,
I'm not trying to,
Yeah,
that's good.
I'm trying to understand.
Thank you. Absolutely. I'll give you an example. So when we got to buy pencils, right? Right now we don't have the time to look for the right pencil at the lowest cost. So what happens essentially is we are so focused on the action of purchasing that we don't have the time to actually procure citywide efficiencies. Now, pencils obviously is a very crude example, but we could be doing a lot better at diversifying our vendors, be it locally here in Chelsea, or gaining efficiencies in pricing, right, by having more collaborative purchasing in the schools and in the city. We could be saving a lot of money in terms of share procurements that right now we don't have the capacity to find those nickels and dimes that add up to a lot.
So I would just say this, that it's better, I think, if a department is facing challenges, it's okay to tell the city council that they're facing challenges and not be afraid to, because you know, we all want things to run smoother, and I think spending more money in order to gain more efficiencies is great, as long as we gain those efficiencies and we can see on the other side of the ledger that money's actually coming back to the city, okay? So this is the first time I'm hearing really about, I did hear about some procurement problems, you know, here and there, but you know, I think it's better, at least for them to tell you and then for you to tell us what, you know, if there's a problem somewhere, so that we know, so this isn't necessarily just, you know, coming out of the blue, that we understand the issues that are going on. I think the greater transparency between the city manager's office and this council really goes a long way to try to figure out what's really, you know, necessary or not necessary, because that's our job to decide if what you presented to us, if we're going to actually want to pay the bill on that, okay? So, I mean, that's our due diligence, so those would be my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I'm going to go with Counselor Jimenez, and then Counselor Teshi has another question.
Just really quick question. The position is 95% on the school side. Is that the expected breakdown of like the amount of work that they're going to be doing as well?
I mean, to be honest, right now everything is being funded by the city, and we are doing, I want to say about 60% of our work is on schools. Is school work, if not more, right? And obviously it fluctuates depending on seasons. The work will be shared, right? We could certainly have more shift on the school side, but we want to do it gradually, and we want to do it in a way that it isn't impacting, obviously, either side.
I just want to, because I also just want to make sure that we note that this position has likely gone through the school committee process for their budget, correct?
That's correct, yep.
Right, so I just think for a position that's being almost entirely funded out of the school's budget, maybe we don't need to spend as much time of it, given that our counterparts in the school committee have gone through this already. I will note that the counselor has brought up some points that I think are you know, helpful in terms of like how we're navigating our relationship with the departments, but in terms of like this specific position, maybe not something that we should, you know, be concerning too much about, given that this has already gone through the school committee process.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Teshi?
Just a quick one. The second goal for FY25, to update Munis vendors. Is Munis not a system that updates automatically?
The Munis itself, the software, it updates. What I meant by that, when we keyed in each new vendor and assign the number to it, our data goes back from 1999 when the vendors were keyed in. So we might as well check on some data if it's still accurate, address, remits, and all that for vendors.
Is it updated like once a month?
So it's we right now in the system we have over 35,000 of vendors listed.
New vendors?
No, overall.
Overall.
Yeah.
I will add that, to hint that, if I'm understanding another part of your question, is that Munis does have the option. So for vendor updates, there's a vendor self-service option, which comes at a cost, which we do not currently pay for or have access to. And it's a substantial cost. It would be maybe a half of one of these positions if we ever was to go that direction, and that would be an annual cost.
Got you. No, and the reason I ask, you know, is because I'm thinking of companies that could be, you know, Chelsea-owned, that could, you know, take advantage of city contracts.
Everything that we do, it's always open, fair competition to everybody out there. For bigger project, we post it on the website, so it's out there for our residents who's interested.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other questions, Councilor Recupero.
There's one question I still don't understand. So, this last job we got, right, which the school department is paying 95% of it, right? So why are they going into our office? Do we procure, why didn't they just stay in the school department side?
Yeah,
Is that coming out of that budget?
so currently, our procurement office handles both city and school procurement. It's more efficient to do it that way, and it guarantees better compliance.
So what you're doing is you're combining it. Is that what you're doing?
It's always been established that city manager by law can delegate who the procurement officer is for the city. And in the city of Chelsea, we have one procurement officer, which is Dragica, who's here as the chief procurement officer. For both city and school.
Before this job was done, right? She took care of the school too, right?
Correct.
Still doing.
So now this is more or less another position, right? Which was required by the Harper to give, because there's more work into it, right?
There's a lot more work.
Yes, there's a lot more work. The laws have not changed. There was the Modernization Act, but those rules didn't really help improve processes for Check 30B and 149 and other procurement rules.
So this will save us money. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, this will give us the capacity to save us money in the long run.
Yeah, and I don't want to be chicken little, but I will add that a lot of our grants, a lot of our federal funds have very strict requirements in how we should procure things, how we have to procure things, and if we miss one step, they will not reimburse us that money, right? So with all the workload that Dragica has on our plate, it's really hard to ensure that all of these check boxes are checked, right? So we want to make sure that we're not penny wise and pound foolish.
I understand. That makes sense.
Okay. Thank you so much. Welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
And you
Yes.
always
So-
look so stunning.
All right, we'll now move to assessing department. Jim Sullivan, our assessor, will come up, and this is on page 74. This is 141.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Jim Sullivan. I'm the Chief Assessor. And just want to highlight a few things that we've done in the past year within the office. As of last month, we're finally fully staffed. That's been a challenge in my 7 years here. The great news is, myself, I've been appraising for over 30 years. Our new hire, Andrew, has more than 20 years. Our assistant assessor for 20 years. Our new hire, 20. Chairman of the Board of Assessor, over 40 years as an assessor, and the two residents on the Board of Assessors, more than 30 years on the board, and residents of Chelsea. So we have a highly experienced crew now, and it's fantastic. It's very good news for us. Excuse me. Some of the accomplishments that we've done is we've been working on assembling parcels. As you see, a lot of people, they have more than 5,000 square feet of land. 5,000 square feet is the buildable lot, but their deeds are broken out, so they'll have two parcels, therefore creating two bills. And a couple of years ago, I noticed there was an issue down on the waterfront, like Midford Street, somewhere down there. Someone had a 5,000 square foot lot with a house across it, and every quarter received 4 tax bills because there are 4 parcels. So we started assembling these parcels into one for billing purposes only. We cannot change the deed. But what that does, it reduces the number of bills that go out, and it reduces the confusion for the property owners. Because if they forget a bill, there are people in tax title because they forgot one of their 4 bills that they receive per quarter. So it's been a process because we had to create a separate database outside of what we typically use. But I think it's a good win for the city and the residents. Another item we've been able to do with the help of Housing Community Development. They have a grant where they use a software package called Nearmap, and we're able to measure every single property in the city without going out to it and doing a hand measurement. We had an estimate from a contractor for $250,000 in a 3-year time frame to measure the properties for us. It's a requirement for the Department of Revenue. We're able to do it with Nearmap at no cost. So that's, we are in the recertification process this year, and they accepted it. It is court defensible. Another thing we've been doing, we have been revisiting everything in the past, and I'm taking all the processing things we've done, we redefine them, and every time we get a new process, we apply it to an application. So we create these applications and processes that will streamline our efforts. And we're using this all with what's on our desktop. There's no need for any additional software. We're doing it by writing formulas and code within Access and Excel, which everybody has on their desktop. So again, it's at no cost. And our camera software gives us the ability to export out the data so I can actually play with data from inspectional services, MLS, CoStar, and it can create a whole nother little enterprise system on the side that we can work off of. And it's worked out very well. And the other thing is the statutory exemptions. A few years ago, we had an issue with the elderly. There was some subjectivity as to define how or what exemption they receive, 17 or 41, based upon the criteria. So it is, we took the forms, and we created a separate application that anybody can fill in. It's, as I said, spoke with Michael earlier, it's all with a thing called VLOOKUPs in formulas within Excel. And you enter the data, and it will calculate and tell you exactly what exemption they'll fall under. Because some people didn't get enough. They were shortchanged a couple years ago. So now this takes up, there's no subjectivity. You enter the data in, whatever they have supplied for information, the calculation will tell you what it is, so everybody's uniform across. Because unfortunately, when we discovered that issue a few years back, we couldn't fix it, but we have now. And what's coming out for this year, for fiscal '25, we're in this recertification year from the Department of Revenue. It is a '25 certification, but they did start. They've been here, they've been doing a data quality review on properties where they go out and visit. They've taken financials and things that we've worked on them. They've come back with a few questions. They don't seem overly concerned. They know how we've made changes in the past. 5 years ago, they give you a detailed list of things they want you to work on and accomplish. They are satisfied that the list from 5 years ago, we have satisfied all those requirements. The other thing is, I mentioned earlier, I was always a big fan of Dr. Deming, who's a continual process improvement. We've been applying that in the office to redefine roles and get things streamlined, because we have a high volume office in Chelsea. And I'll give you an example. Medford is 3 times the size of Chelsea. They have 3 times as many properties. They had 30 abatements. This year, we're at a record low at 137. So to manage that process of the abatements, we kind of think a little differently, because it is very cumbersome. So we've been redefining it, working with the other people in the office, and come out, again, just in Excel, trying to make things to transition a little smoother, and take away the element, let the formulas do all the work. And then the other thing, we are fully staffed, which is, like I said, fantastic. So now it's the training and retaining these people. So we have starting in July, I have a whole training schedule broken up by month of the objectives for the month and how we're gonna do them. There's obviously, it's broken up by job description. Myself and the assistant assessor are responsible for everything. The new data collector who just started, data manager, he wants to learn everything. We will show it to him. We can't make him work outside his job description, but he wants to. He's highly engaged to learn all the roles and responsibilities in the office. That way we'll have some tremendous bench strength. If somebody's out, somebody can fill right in. We shouldn't have any lulls or any downside with other people. And as far as the budget changes itself, our software licenses went down 16%. I got rid of some software that we weren't using. It was $20,000 a year. We don't need it. We weren't using it. It wasn't effective, so I cut it out of the budget. Our data processing is down 52%. That's because we did raise it to get the lot combination piece done, which will obviously help in the transaction cost of the billing, which will reduce it. And our appraisal services is down 122%. The reason being, again, this is the fiscal year, but every 5 years, we have to do recertification, but the billing starts in, the process starts in fiscal '24, so every 5th year, you'll see a big spike in expenses with appraisal services. And other than that, pretty much, everything else has pretty much stayed the same.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions? Counselor Robinson?
Probably know what I'm going to ask you.
I have a suspicion.
Well, actually, in the budget, where is the cost for when we have to go to tax court to defend the abatements?
Well, there's a couple line items for tax court, involved with tax, when it goes to the appellate tax board. We have the legal fund. One of the things you'll notice is the other professional. We have a couple of consultants, both 40 years experience as assessors, who've been dealing with these lawyers for decades. So we try to nip it in the bud and negotiate before going to court, because the only ones winning the court are the lawyers. The attorney fees are very, very expensive to fight cases. The appraisal fees are $400 an hour for an appraiser, and probably anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000 for an appraisal to be prepared for court. So we try not to go to court. We try to negotiate them. But it will come out of the legal fees, and if we were to lose a case, that money will come out of the overlay.
So in regards to residents, how many abatements were asked by residents?
I believe it was about 7 out of 137.
And
So the majority of those, roughly 100 out of 137 were our frequent flyers, we call them, the attorneys that are basically taking a whole portfolio and just jamming it down our throats and filing abatements on everything. They were all denied this year. They're already at the ATB for another year. So they're stacking these cases 4 to 5 years deep now.
well, and that relates to the low-income credits that we've
Yeah,
been given?
those ones are all low-income properties.
Those are the ones pretty much going to tax court
Yes.
for us to debate.
And I'll give you an example. One of them, I'm not going to say who, but they have a tax bill, an annual tax bill of $60. They abated it. Didn't give us any reason as to why, didn't give us an opinion of value. They were denied. They applied at the tax board and have to pay a $100 fee to fight our $60 annual tax bill. So we have a lot of these kind of nuisance items going on. They just take everything and jam it down there. Piece of land that's worth nothing, they'll just debate it.
All right, thanks, that's what I needed to know.
Okay, Counselor Jimenez?
So my question is, you said that there's usually a spike in the 5th year because of the DOR
Yes.
process. So I understand that that's why there's a decrease in the 25, but then I'm curious why the 23 actuals were higher than the 24 adopted.
Okay, so in 22 and 23, the city council wanted to have an outside person come in and revalue apartments in mixed use. So in that period there, it was for a completely different project that
Okay.
the city council
Got it.
demanded.
That makes sense, no worries. Thank you.
Sure.
Counselor Brown?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I apologize for being late. I stated that last night I would be running late. So thanks for being here. You're running a tight ship there. Good job. I was just reading in your goals earlier today that you're looking to train and recruit and hire. Just want to know, it doesn't show anywhere here where you have money set aside or what service area you're trying to train and recruit in. Can you just tell us what you're trying to do there?
Well, recruiting is just, for us, was working with human resources to get qualified people in the door. So we do have them now. As far as training, it's internal. We do have a training budget.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So my thought was you were trying to recruit because you maybe be down a job or two. But
We were.
You don't listen. Okay.
So at the beginning, we just hired Craig, who's been here about a month.
Okay.
He's already on his process, halfway through his certification process. because he came here with such an experience, they waive half his classes.
Now, is that the assistant data manager?
Yes, that's the data manager.
Okay, so you hired for that position?
Correct.
Okay, all right, okay.
So a lot of the training is internal. There's no cost. It's just sitting down with people and understanding the processes, how we work with purchasing, auditing, treasury, et cetera.
So this budget before us, I sure got your blueprints on it, state that you're all set for hiring this year.
Correct.
Correct. And you stated that other cities had a lot of residents going back with abatements, but you said Chelsea had very low compared to the other numbers?
No, exact opposite. So I said, Medford, for example, is 3 times the size and had 30 abatements.
38.
30 abatements for the city.
30, yeah.
For 18,000 parcels.
Okay.
We had 137 on 6,500 parcels.
So what were most of the reasons why the abatements, I know what they're for, but they didn't feel they got a fair assessment?
Well,
what was the reason?
of those abatements, only about 7 were receiving the residential exemption that we tag as homeowners, that I know they live there. The rest were brought by attorneys for the low-income housing tax credit properties.
Okay. All right, so contracts. Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
All right, Councilor Recupero.
I congratulate you, Mr. Sullivan. You're the department that everything is down, nothing is up. Your department is, everything is down, nothing is up. I wanted to ask you one question. A few years back, right, now that you have another person helping you, right, are you going to go in and reevaluate the bigger units, or did you already reevaluate and reassess them?
Every property gets reassessed every year. What we do is we have a cyclical program. We have to make an attempt to get into each property once every 10 years. That's a constant program that's always going on. But we can still value the properties based upon what we have. If we see any changes in building permits, and then we adjust it for market conditions. So if the market goes up or down, the values will reflect that.
My question is specifically that because before we were under evaluating the bigger units. And we were, because I remember from the time before, we were always under evaluating a guy that owned a 40-unit apartment building was paying just as much as a guy that had a 3-unit apartment building. So that is a question I want. I remember from that. Is now equal? Are these people in the bigger units paying as much money as the people in the lower units?
Well, they all pay the same tax rate, it's on the valuation. And we switched from a cost approach to an income approach, which is more relevant because if someone would go to a bank and get a loan, they're going to look at the income approach. The cost approach and the sales approach will be in the appraisal report, but the justification of the value is predicated upon your income and expenses, and that's what the large apartments do. And we can take that, what we collect in data ourselves from the income and expense forms that go out. We're doing a second mailing this week, and we have information available in CoStar, which is a court defensible system that does all the analysis on different submarkets, which we can take and say, we know what apartments are getting for rent. We have thousands of data points already and can see what they're charging. We apply it to them, and that's how we value. But yes, it's much more accurate on the income approach.
Right, that's the question I'm asking. Is it more accurate now and more fair than it was before?
Absolutely.
These people are getting actually what they actually assess instead of paying less, because before it wasn't like that. There was more put on the lesser homeowner than the big apartment buildings. They were going inside and they weren't paying the right amount because they were saying, this apartment is worth $10,000. That's just a matter of speech. And the other one is, now you redid them and they're paying their fair share.
Absolutely. And every year, there's a calculation called a PRD, and it's to test the progressivity of property taxes, because all taxes have to be progressive. We have passed that every single year, and it shows that people that they assume are lesser income, the lower value properties, will pay at a lower effective tax rate. And if you'll see it, it's in the executive summary that's on our website that I handed out the last time I was up here. You will see the difference in the effective tax rates in the lower valued properties, because the residential exemption for some people will reduce their, say, a single one-bedroom condo. They essentially pay 10% of their bill. For the average homeowner, they're going to get their they've got 1/3 of their tax bill taken right off the average single-family homeowner if they have the residential exemption, because that's a static number. That's $3,018, whether you live in a $200,000 house or a $10 million house. You get the same amount, so it is progressive. And again, it's your effective tax rate. Everybody pays the same tax rate, but the Res X will influence the effective tax rate and lower it for the lower valued properties.
So now it's more fair than it was before?
Absolutely. The values went up tremendously in the past 5 years.
Okay, I have one more question for you. When, on these little lots that people have, like you were saying earlier, if they got a big lot, you separate them in sections now, and they get...
No. The deeds have broken up, so they'll say Lot A, Lot B, Lot C, Lot D.
Right, but it's one owner that owns it.
Correct.
So they get 3 different bills now?
They did, because they were broken out sometime in the past, and it could have been a result of, prior to having a relational database, they might have used a flat file, which brought in every different line item. So now we have a relational database. We can assemble those parcels for the purpose of billing only, and we can get rid of 3 of those 4 bills, and the taxpayer will get 1 bill, and it'll greatly reduce the expense
So you became
involved.
more efficient?
Absolutely.
One last question. Now, you're gonna go each year, you're gonna reevaluate the houses each year now, right?
We do it every year.
No, but I'm saying now you're gonna, let me put it, now that you have more staff, right? How would it, what would be reevaluating a higher that it is? You evaluate how much the houses sell around your neighborhood, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's say in my neighborhood, a house sold for $1.5 million, right?
Yep.
So now, my house is only worth, let's say, $700,000. Would I get the same assessed value as that house that sold for $1.5 million?
No.
Okay, that's the question. So
One sale doesn't make a market. We look at
you
the
don't go
market overall.
You don't go uniformly that this is what sold and that's what everybody's gonna pay?
No, because it's based upon your square footage. So anything less than a 4-family is based upon the cost approach. So we'll take your square footage, and we'll figure out what houses are selling for at a certain price per square foot, and we'll apply it to you. And then there's a bunch of pluses and minuses. Is yours brand new, completely renovated? You'll get an adjustment for higher. If it's not maintained as well as the rest of the homes in the neighborhood, you'll be a little bit lower based upon the condition. But fundamentally, you're all gonna start with the same base rate based upon the sales. So there's no uniform number. There's a uniform rating and square footage number that will go up and down.
I know that's what you charge, but, so, in other words, I get what you're saying. That's the question I was getting at. If that house sold for $1 million, and the other one sold for $500,000, and the other one sold for $1 million, you average them out?
No.
No?
We don't average anything. We will take them and look at them and look at the sales, and that's where we get our growth numbers, and we adjust them accordingly. And then basically, they go into a pool, and we look at all the adjusted numbers and find out where the houses should be. We have a range. We have a median that we'll go off of.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councillor Teshi? You have a question?
Thank you for coming before us. Take the job. Yeah. I would just ask a little bit of kind of like economics class right now, right? So the job of the assessors is to assess the property of all of Chelsea and to make sure that, the taxes the people in Chelsea are paying are fair based on the value of the properties. In terms of abatements, the purpose of an abatement is to decrease the assessed value and decrease the taxes paid.
An abatement is a right that every taxpayer has if they disagree with their value. And what they're supposed to do is fill out the form during the month of January, because the deadline's usually February 1st. So they'll come in, they'll fill it out. They should give a reason as to why and provide proof to us why they feel the number is incorrect. The Board of Assessors, not myself, but the board, which is made of residents of Chelsea, will decide whether it's warranted. But if they don't provide any proof and say, my taxes are too high, that's not an excuse. They need to show proof, because we just do values. The taxes are a result of the budget and the valuation process. So if they feel there is a mistake made, or this isn't a one-size-fits-all, sometimes the smaller condos might need to be adjusted, they come a little high, we'll grant abatements. But typically, if we're off, it's a small amount. And we don't, we're not taking a hard stand against everybody like we're always right. Sometimes the formulas are off a little bit, and we'll adjust them accordingly, but usually it's very minor amount. But it is a right of a taxpayer. This year, of the 137, I think we granted about 5 or 6.
Gotcha.
Not many.
Aside from the actual value of the properties, are there any differences in terms of who gets abatements based on what entity is applying for them?
No, there's no, it's completely impartial. Again, they have, for the typical resident, they should provide proof. There isn't a guide from the ATB, we can give them a copy as what will help them in their position. Again, to say your taxes are too high, it's not an argument because the value could be right on. If the values, no one wants to pay more taxes. So we'll evaluate, make sure, we'll look into it, make sure they're getting the residential exemption if they live there.
Yeah.
If they're elderly or a veteran, we'll try to get them in a statutory if they qualify to lower their tax burden. And then we'll look at it and see where they fall. We
And,
don't, there's no,
Yeah.
it just, if it falls within the range.
Once an abatement is granted, can it be removed?
Abatement is only good for 1 year.
1 year, and then you reassess.
So next year, there'll be another reassessment. So if we find out, we go out there and someone says, hey, you made a mistake on mine, they will get an abatement, they'll get money back, and then we do a card correction, which will permanently change the account. So let's say we put it as 4 stories and it was really 3. There was a typo and it got calculated as 4. Probably wouldn't happen, but it's just a bad example. We would fix it, give them their money for the, and then going forward, there won't be an issue.
That's good. I like that you brought up, you might see a typo come up, which just brings me to my other question. You mentioned that in your department, a lot of the data is being handled through Excel and through manually inputted data.
Yes.
Are there any current software systems that would exponentially decrease the amount of time being spent on inputting data?
Well, as far as input,
or managing thereof?
for example, like, we'll import we'd have 7,000 building permits, roughly, a year, I think. We don't touch those, it's imported. So there is no transposition errors, whatever they have, we pull it right in and gets fed into the system. So there's no mistakes, it doesn't get, we match up the IDs, the maps and lots, and we do it outside in Access, I clean it, and I bring it into the camera system. And from there, again, because there is no data, we don't touch the data, it's just an import that gets fed in. If there's a mistake made, the mistake will be brought in, but typically, we'll catch them when we go out and do the inspections on the permits. And when we take stuff out of the system, we're usually just doing that for analysis. But the data entry is minimal. We do have a process in place with someone who, like our data manager will put it in, the assistant assessor will review all his work.
Yeah.
And we do a data quality review.
No, I'm thinking, because you do handle the data of the whole city, if the council at some point would want to do a report or do a study or an analysis based on all the properties, let's say I want to find out all the properties that are 3 floors, all the apartments that are, a certain number of rooms. As of now, it sounds like if it's just Excel, you wouldn't be able to pull that kind of data in less than, let's say, a month.
Well, what I would do is just, whatever the request is, I write a report, which is a query system in the camera, and I just export it out to a CSV.
Okay,
And then
so,
you can, yeah.
so you would say, like, as of now, there's no any kind of software that would be necessary or that you would think would be helpful to be added to your office?
Down the road, maybe like Power BI or something like that, but right now, if we can get the processes down a little bit better in Excel. But I don't want to make it also too complicated.
Yeah, makes sense.
For continuity.
No, and I will disclose. So my very first month of being a counselor, I went to your office and we spoke, and you were very diligent about getting data that I requested. So definitely thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
And because you were so great at doing it, I figured, let's see, if we can lend some more hands.
So the data, the majority of the data is public, so we can get it out there. And for the public itself, everything is on our website. There are cards, so if they wanted to look up their own property, everything is out there. We try to be as transparent as possible. and all the sales data that we use for analysis is listed out there as well.
And we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Saving the best for last. Counselor Taylor?
So, thank you, Jim, for the work that you do, really. It really, it really, I know you had to put up with a lot of stuff, you know, in the last few years, and I think you've done a great job, and I just want to say thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to do it.
So, I want to get back to these abatements. Would you say that these abatements are kind of the biggest financial problem that we have here?
Well, the paperwork involved in tracking them and the whole process is cumbersome. Because we have to, for the homeowners, it's not that bad. They don't understand the process.
Right.
We help them with it. We'll tell them, listen, you need to show something. We'll help them. Prove us wrong.
Right.
This is what you need to do to prove us wrong. Give it to us. It's more or less the attorneys that just try to flood us to essentially submit us, beat us up with paperwork. They'll submit tons of it. It is their right to do so. So we don't stop it. But it does place a tremendous burden in the first couple months of the year.
Would it be fair to say that the larger the landlords, the more they try to beat you up? That's fair to say, right?
No. Again, it's their right to
I
file them.
I understand.
Some of them are just, like I said, a $60 tax bill, they file a $100 fee to complain about us charging them $60.
So when some of these guys, some of these larger landlords, and especially that are attached to the low-income properties, right? This is who we're talking about. How much are those costing us? How much do those abatements cost the city? You have a dollar?
We didn't grant any this year.
Sorry?
They were all denied this year.
They were all denied.
They were all denied. But now they will file at the ATB, which will increase our attorney's fees. Hopefully, our consultants will try to nip it in the bud.
Do you know how much we paid last year, or how much it cost us last year?
I think we sent a report to the council. I think it was requested by Councilor Robinson. I think we sent a report to the council that included the last 3 years, 23, 22, and 21. But I can say that. I can send that again.
Okay. Do we know how much that was?
Not at this moment.
All right. I'll look it up, I guess.
Yeah, I'll send you that.
So then, how many of the people that were denied, the 137 that were denied, are now taking the next step?
I know one attorney filed 50 court cases.
I'm sorry?
One attorney's filed 50 cases at the Appellate Tax Board.
One attorney's filed 50, and that's just, so that accounts for 50 of the 137.
So of the 137, 50 of them just for that one person is the tax board.
Is it fair to say that most of them will go the next step to try to get the?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And how many of those will go to litigation, do you think? Or you try to negotiate it down, you said.
I'm not going to try to negotiate anything. They don't deserve it.
I'm sorry, that what?
They don't deserve a break, so I would say none of them. I think they're valued fairly, and they haven't proven anything, and I don't think they should get a penny of the city's money.
Okay. Mr. City Manager, you'd stand behind that?
There is a Board of Assessors for a reason, right? The Board of Assessors operates independently of the city manager or of the council for that matter. They are professionals, and I would never influence any of the tax process, and it is set up that way for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
The tax process is not a political process.
And again, I am not on the Board of Assessors either, so.
No, I understand.
It's my opinion that I think we're doing pretty well by them.
Okay, thank you. That's over 3 years. So just for the public's sake, the total over those last 3 years was approximately $2.5 million. That's how much. All right. Thank you so much, really, for everything you do. I think you've done a great job, and I appreciate it.
It is very clear there's no one in this building that knows taxes as much as Jim does. Good. Good class, Jim.
All right, seeing no other questions? Thank you, Jim. Thank you for all that you do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Council. Up next, we will have our Director of DEI, Dr. Candace Perez. DEI is on page 95 of your book. Page 95 of your book. And Dr. Candace Perez is going to walk us through our budget.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Thank you for taking the time to meet with me this evening. Last year, it was a continuation of my listening and learning tour where I was conducting focus groups, and that has been the bulk of where my budget has been spent on the contract services. I also, a good portion of that was sort of cushioned by grants that I had received. I am aware that you may notice a big difference in what it was that I had requested in a proposed budget for FY25, and the reasoning for that is because I have a bigger vision for diversity and procurement, and I'm aware that those consultants do run very expensive. However, expectations were explained to me as far as the capacity that is within the bandwidth of City Council and the City of Chelsea. So in the spirit of collaboration and just creativity, I understand that I have to work with what you give me, and that would be in conjunction with the Chief Procurement Officer. But basically, this year has been mostly at the expenditure of trainings, employee learning and development. That is also inclusive of the materials that were utilized in that development, as well as catering. I believe in a holistic learning experience. Oftentimes, people are in my office up until 3 hours at a time. So, and the intensive material, I don't take for granted. You have me here as your resident scientist, and it's not productive for employees to fall asleep while they're being given critical race theory. So, with that being said, I intend on continuing on that tangent, inclusive of a more broader training strategy that also is inclusive of cultural competency and humility. We've also had a very successful run of anti-bias training. The employee dashboard has been completed. Additionally, we have completed the bulk of the listening and learning, or the focus groups. There are some departments that haven't been rounded on, and I could always go into detail on that if you'd like, but other than that, the citywide audit has gone as far as it can go at the confines of the budget that I have. And I'm using the material that I have gotten from that audit to inform the learning and development strategy, as well as the consultative feedback that I provide Fidel and now to Devin. So I express profound gratitude for all of your support. And additionally now, under my department, I now have the bandwidth of the Chelsea Women's Commission. So I'm also of the understanding that that's going to require a broader capacity, because, and now we're talking about Juneteenth, it'd be nice to have T-shirts made for them. Maybe we can have a tent out there to have more community outreach. There's been an explosive response to this commission, and I understand that resources are stretched, but we're all very excited about the things that are to come. So the Office of DEI is expanding, and there's a lot going on, and we're very excited about it.
Thank you, Candace.
Thank you.
I will start my questions. No, this corner? Yes, Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Ms. Perez, Candace, for being here. I know you talk a lot about in your budget, implies that you're trying to do a lot with employee training. Can you tell us if you have implemented any training courses where I know a lot of the state offices where they have training courses about different matters, online, where after the employee take that training course, it usually could be anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, and they're required to sign and
Oh, that's a
file
good idea. I haven't implemented anything online as of yet. If and when that does happen, it would also require collaboration with IT, who are very supportive and collaborative.
So there's been no training courses
No, but
given
what
online?
happens in that instance,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. There was no training courses?
there are training courses, but there aren't online modules.
Okay,
So what would happen? They'd come to my office, where it's basically a
One-on-one.
classroom in my office. And for example, if there is employee feedback, or a director, has to, I don't know, provide directive, I have given employee training on cultural humility in my office. 1-to-1, 2-to-1, that's what's available. And that's something that's intentional and intensive, as opposed to someone sitting for 20 or 30 minutes and just clicking through modules and not understanding the context of why they're even there.
Well, I disagree, because I believe once that person sit for 10 or 15 minutes or however minutes, you have a record that that person have knowledge of that training and those issues and those matters, whatever contained in that training. And that's why a lot of the communities are going into that way. And I was thinking your budget, where it increases your demand.
Yeah, that would be magnificent.
Okay.
Honestly, I would love that. That
So-
would increase the reach, and that would be something that would be effective with fire and police, honestly.
Okay, so with your request for the $25,000 for training this year, how much of the training expense have you spent in last year's budget?
How much of that 25,000 was
Yes,
spent last year?
for training?
Let me see on the line item. I'm short-sighted, Fidel, I can't see it. So, I can't see the lines, I can't.
So for fiscal '23,
Yeah, it was 2,600.
2,600 was spent. And then currently, as of December snapshot, I don't have a most recent snapshot, we're around $500.
I'm sorry, I can't hear, I'm sorry. So 23, it was 2,600, and 24, you spent how much?
As of the December snapshot, that's
December.
about 4 months ago.
Yeah.
At this time, we're around $500.
In spending or reserve?
And spending for the training line.
Okay, so you had about 2,400 left?
I'm sorry, I didn't
You
hear.
have about 2,400 left?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I just saw it, I just thought maybe that's where the request was coming, because you were doing more technology of training, where here it seems like you're spending about $500 on mutual training, so, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other questions? All right. Oh, Counselor Jimenez?
So I'm curious about, so in your goals for this coming year, I see that the partnership with the Chelsea Public Schools is pretty high up, and I'm just curious kind of how much of your time is dedicated to the work with CPS, given that CPS also has a DEI officer. I'm just kind of curious how you and Aaron, Dr. Dennings, are splitting that time, and how.
Yeah, that's not like a huge percentage of my time, since they have their own sort of operations. Usually when I'm collaborating with my cohort, Dr. Jennings, it's a collaborative effort. Or, sometimes he would ask me for my consultative input on, certain projects that he's got going on with the schools, depending on the occasion, and vice versa. This is something that I also sort of like dovetailed from the year before, that I couldn't quite get a handle on over the past year, because I was so entrenched in the equity audit. So I just kind of wanted to keep a bookmark on there and, make an intentional effort in just keeping that in the forefront. I know that Dr. Jennings had, he verbally mentioned to me that, he thinks that there is a place for what it is that I offer, as far as what what I represent in the coaching and the training of women and girls. And I think that that's an intersection that, they may still want to explore within the framework of the schools, whether it's me, being a speaker or, having workshops or, mentor groups, things of that nature. But that's something that I hadn't gotten a chance to get to that last year because of the equity audits. So right now I'm reframing my sort of work plan. And like I said, I think with this new focus on the Women's Commission, I think that there's a place for that and something for us to explore. But honestly, that, is something that is not, I haven't quite touched on that as of yet, honestly.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Seeing no other questions, thank you so much, Candace.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Also, I appreciate that idea.
Thank you, Council. Devin Fields, Deputy City Manager overseeing operations. I am pleased to introduce Mr. Ed Ells, our Director of Human Resources, to present the HR personnel budget to you this evening.
And this is we are on page 90.
Page 90.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Nice to see you all again.
Nice to see you too, Ed.
So I think I know most of you. I'm Ed Ells. I'm the Director of HR for the City of Chelsea. I thank you for inviting me here tonight, and I thank you for putting me here after Jim from assessing, because he brings good news. For me to sit here and hear him say he's fully staffed, and we were having this conversation with Devin this morning, and I said, that's music to my ears that we are fully staffed, and I want to be 100% fully staffed. That's the goal, because we get nothing done if we're not filled.
Yeah.
But, we're fully staffed in procurement, we're fully staffed in assessing, we're fully staffed in community development, we're fully staffed in assessing, so it's good news. So I bring that additional good news to this council here and say that, our goals, my team is terrific. The success that we've had in HR is because of them. It's, Billy Gonzalez, Jenny Romero, and Odalisa Macedo are the core foundations of the HR office. And I think a lot of you know them because you come up and visit every so often with questions. So, but I want to talk about tonight, just very briefly, a few of the key accomplishments of this past year since I've been up here last. Number one, we're completing shortly a classification, a compensation plan for our non-union senior level executives, meaning the ones that are not represented by a union. And they have not had such an analysis done in several years now. So it's well overdue. And what it will do is it will provide us with a modern job description for each of the participants in the program, again, approximately 24 people. And we'll also produce a market rate compensation table so we can ensure that we're paying them the market rate for their job. It's not something we get to do with the union representation, when we're contracted with negotiations, but this is something that we will do. We haven't done it in many years, and hopefully will yield the benefits. Second, this year was our first collaboration with the city clerk's office. I often said, what do they have in common with us? Well, poll workers, we have in common with City Hall, because we made the decision, the strategic decision several months ago, to pay the poll workers as employees of the city, not contractors, because they no longer met the definition of what a contractor does. A contractor, sets his own hours, sets his own pay, works when he wants, takes direction from no one. An employee is just the opposite. An employee needs to be somewhere, get paid a certain amount. So we went through that process working with Patrice and her team, and we kind of made a differentiation on the forms that we use to make it easier for what would, in many cases, be older people filling out applications for the first time, getting the required license and documentation. But her team, Patrice's team, and I'm sorry, it was Patrice from a payroll perspective, and Jeanette from a city clerk perspective that made this all happen with our teams. Again, so that was a big accomplishment this year. And then in my office, like I've said, I wouldn't be anywhere without the team. But we constantly try to refine the recruitment process to make it the shortest time period possible for managers to report a vacancy, to interview, to screen candidates, to get hired, to go through the onboarding process, and arrive in the office in that day. It usually takes on average 30 to 45 days to execute that, and that heavily dependent on whether someone is part of a union and a mandatory posting requirement, or if they are non-union and we can post without that mandatory requirement. So a couple things for this year that we're looking at going forward. Roth IRA, I think many of you may be familiar with that. Historically, municipalities have not offered Roth IRAs because of the pension requirements and the pension benefit that they provide. The IRS laws are changing, and municipalities need to offer a Roth IRA going forward by the end of, I think it's the end of 2025. So we're just going to jumpstart and do that enrollment, working with Patrice's office through the end of this year. And I think we're going to launch it in third or fourth quarter. So that would be an achievement there. We want to take advantage of the changes and the reformations I think we'll see in the area of technology to make my office more efficient. So I've often said that the HR office is high touch and highly personal, but it's highly inefficient. There comes a price tag with that. It comes with it. And it's still good that we're highly personal. I think, looking at some of the Munis tools, the benefits module, if we could get that done over the next year and a half, it would greatly improve operations in the HR office. And finally, performance reviews, not performance reviews, I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. Blocked the notes. Is the HR policy manual, which we've been trying to get out for a couple months now. We have the policies, we just got to bind them together and get legal review of the document before we distribute it to employees. So that's a little bit what we hope to do this year and a snapshot picture of what we've done in the past year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. We can start with questions. Councillor Teshi.
So I'm looking at the new position coming up. What does PT stand for again? New part-time. So what is the difference between the new part-time clerk and the temporary position, or just temporary? It says that's $27,000. Is this also for another position?
Is this what? I'm sorry.
No, so there's a line item in the HR budget for temporary employees. So those are either, some are interns, right, or temporary employees that we hire as vacancies are created in the department and we got to backfill. So that's a line that is in the budget and it has been there for a long time. At times we use it, at times we do not. That's the $27,300 that is part of the budget. It's for the allowance of temporary employees.
And the so this new part-time position, that's $39,000, but the overall increase was for $70,000 in terms of salaries.
So
that's right.
What's the extra $30K? Just for regular?
The goal is a part-time, permanent resource dedicated to the health and welfare policies and the benefits orientation.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you got to remember, in our office, we're not covering just benefits orientation for the city. We're doing it for the school employees, and we're doing it for the retirees. Both populations are growing.
Yeah.
And we just need the support to, to fine-tune how we get through the administrative component and requirement of the HR office.
No, and I agree. I think, I'm in support of the new position. I would just ask, if this position is $39,000, but then the increase of the salaries is $70,000, is the remaining $30,000 just to account for salary increases of already employees?
That's right. Exactly. So the of the $70,000 line, that is the increase in the salary line, 39,000 of that is related to a new part-time position that we are requesting of the council. The remainder in the increase in salary line are step increases as part of our obligations to employees. And of course, a cost of living increase, which for this year, for exempt employees will be 3.5%.
And that 3.5% for employees adds up to $30K. I don't.
I mean,
I wouldn't ask do the math, but
Michael?
I just want to make sure
Do the
that,
math?
that 30K is gonna be for those 4 already employees without counting the new position. Is that?
Correct.
Okay.
3 of those employees are not at the max step, so they're still moving through the steps. So those are substantial jumps from those
Gotcha.
step movements.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Taylor?
Counselor Teshi stole one of my questions. He's learning. So I would just say, I mean, I think that the the budget is again right in line as far as everything looks. You're adding the new position, but you're also it looks like you're adding a lot of stuff regarding the benefits for employees, and so I know that takes more effort there. So I don't really have any other questions other than now that everybody's fully staffed.
Not everybody, but most.
We're working on it.
What now is your challenge going forward?
Retention, right? So we are spending, and I'm sorry, Ed, but my challenge right now is, and it's something that I shouldn't steal your thunder, Devin. Go ahead.
Thank you. I love this question because I think one of the things that I've been most impressed with the City of Chelsea so far is the dedication to residents working here, in addition to creating an exceptional workplace. So not only do we want to provide a lot of jobs for the City of Chelsea, but we want people to love where they work and have pride here. And I think Ed was spot on when he talked about how the team in HR is really the foundation of a lot of those feelings for our employees. And what we want to do now is make sure they stay, because we are taking the time to train them. Our DEI initiatives that you just heard about. We had an all-day retreat yesterday with our department and division heads, doing values work and goal setting and making sure that we are all rowing this boat in the same direction. And that's what we want to empower our HR team to be able to do, is build on that. We've hired some incredible talent, especially in the last since January. There have been 36 new employees that this team, this 3-person team has onboarded, which is a massive undertaking, and many, many hours. I see the HR team stay after closing time, and they are doing a lot of work to support our employees, and we want to take that to the next level and now retain them.
And retain them with a smile. We want them happy here.
That's all I've got.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you, Counselor. Counselor Recupero?
Going to your question that you just said, you said you hiring a lot of people from Chelsea, right? But from what I see, it's always been my thing through the years that I've been here. Most of the jobs with the big money are being waived, and they're moving out of the city. The city needs people to stay in our city. But the big money jobs, they're being waived. So you're really hiring what? Outsiders to come and work in our city?
I think we want to hire the best person for the job. That is something that I've seen in this leadership team. We want a good fit for what Chelsea wants to achieve in the future. We're moving forward, and that's not to say that there aren't incredibly qualified people in Chelsea. We have 51.6% of residents employed here in the city, and I would say that's a very impressive figure, especially for a community in this region, which, as you know, is getting harder and harder to really maintain.
What is the percentage of the people that make the most money that live in our city and will hire from Chelsea?
So of this table, at least 2. So Ed is my neighbor. He lives
Oh,
in
Mr.
Emerald
Al?
Hill. Absolutely.
But that's why I'm saying, I'm not
I
talking
do too.
about. But
Yeah,
I'm-
so
I live in
of
Emerald
this
Hill.
sample
but
size,
I
that's
understand what you're trying to
50%.
say, but I'm not talking about that. She said about new hire that you hire, right?
Yes.
So what is the percentage of the new hire that you hire from the big money that are coming from this city, that are staying in this city? I'm not talking about $50,000. I'm talking about $100,000, $120,000, $110,000. How many of them actually live in our city, and how many of them did you hire from this city? What is the percentage? You say, how many people you say you hire? 56 people?
We can find that information for you. That's a very easy lookup for us to do in our employee management system. I'm happy to get that information
You know,
for
through
you.
all the years that I've been here, right? One of the biggest thing has always been hire Chelsea people, because the big money people should stay in it. There's the middle class. Like Fidel stays here. I understand. He's been here, he didn't leave. But for me, it's always been that if you hire people from Chelsea, and before I used to hear, oh, there's not enough qualified people in the city of Chelsea. There is lots of qualified people in the city of Chelsea, and they should have priority over these big jobs, because from what I see is you hire people and they come from outside, and then they don't live here anymore. They get waivers, they go away. I want people from our city to live here and to see what regular people are. And I don't see a percentage of them, of the big money people. I see maybe you hire, lower grade people, within the middle range, but I don't see none in the high, 100,000 or above. They live here. Fidel does, he does, whatever. But since you hired all these people, I would really like to know how many of them actually, the big money people, live in our city. Or where did they come from? Did you pick them from Chelsea? Was there enough applicants from Chelsea? Hey, here's a question I got for you. I'm sorry, Mr. Al. When people apply, right, on your department, right, you say Chelsea people have priority, right? So if you got 20 Chelsea people that come and apply to your department, right, and then you have 10 that come out from other place, I've noticed that 80% of them are the big money, because I watch sometimes, don't live here. You pick an outsider. Why? Are they more qualified than Chelsea people?
They would be, yes, I would imagine in most cases that is the standard, yes.
That's kind of, I don't agree with that.
Of the applicant pool that we received, I'm saying, of
And
the
I would
applicant
also-
pool that we received.
And not to interrupt you, Ed, I apologize. I would also say that it's a really challenging time to hire in municipal government right now. It's not only challenging work, and cities are facing issues with budgets. Everyone is losing ARPA. There is about to be a fiscal cliff for many communities that are mismanaging, and so attracting people who want to work in the public sector, which can be challenging because you work in a relatively public environment where people can sometimes get emotional and not always lead with their best foot. And so I think right now people are doing a lot of values work to say, do I want to put up with this? And so when we find talented people who want to work in the public sector, we got to move and we got to acquire them as quickly as we can.
What is the biggest motivator for people to work? What is the biggest motivator for people to work?
Counselor,
What motivates people to want to work?
Counselor, can we please keep it more direct to
This
the
is relevant
budget?
to that.
To the budget?
Yeah, it is to the budget. What makes people want to come to us? Like you said, what is the biggest motivator for people?
We had a retreat, Counselor, where 25 people went, and it's different for everyone. So we learned that some people are here for a mission, right? Some people are here for responsibility, right? So it is not a one-size-fit-all answer.
There's only one side that motivates human beings. You know what it is? Money.
Okay. All right.
90% of the jobs.
Counselor, do you have any other questions? If not, I'd like to share some space with the rest of your colleagues.
I have one more question. This medical service, what is that?
Medical services is the vendor, mostly Cambridge Hospital, that we get our pre-employment physicals from, our psych tests, our random
So
drug screening,
that's when you hire people.
psychological evaluations, everything that it's in the recruiting process that we need to get so they're
And-
medically certifiable to work.
Oh, so that's, okay. And what is it? Other professional consultant service? What is that?
That's mostly where we house our vendors who provide administrative support to us, so that includes our unemployment vendor, our workers' compensation vendor, our ACA reporting vendor, so all those vendor reps are located in that one line item.
Overall, you do a good job, Mr. Alf. I don't see anything here that, you know, your department seems to be running pretty smooth. It doesn't really increase much.
All right.
I don't see much. Good job, Ed. Oh, one more thing that I wanted to ask. How come on a temporary you went to, the change was 27, what's that, the temporary employees you hire?
That's,
The $25,000 one, yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned it.
I did, yeah. That line is what we use to hire either summer interns, right? Or temporary employees that are needed when there's a vacancy and there's an immediate need for a person.
So that's what that is, right, as a 10?
Yep.
Yeah, those summer employees, are those school kids too?
Most of them are college-age students,
Freshman.
Okay.
Thank you.
Counselor, thank you. Any other counselors, questions? Brown?
Chair. So I had a question when I heard you speak of the election contract with the poll workers. You said, can you explain what that is?
And what was the question again, Counselor?
So you said something about the city clerk and your department did something with instead of hiring them as contractors.
Yes.
You
so
hired them as something else.
we hired them as employees.
Employees?
As part-time temporary employees.
So can you give us a definition of what a
So
part-time employee?
that's what sparred this. So after
What's
we-
the benefits? That's what I want to know.
Well, compliance with the state statute on fair wages is number one, top of our mind. It was to be in compliance with the wage and hour laws of the city. That's what drove the decision. For years, the
I'm
poll
sorry, can you speak into the mic a little?
Yeah, you know, for years, we know the poll workers, they work twice, maybe 3 times a year
Correct.
on a presidential election. They've always been
Correct.
paid as contractors.
Yeah.
Contractors under state law need to be able to make their own schedule, charge their own fees, et cetera, to be a contractor. Our poll workers are not contractors. They are told when to come to work. They're told when to go on break. Their hourly rate is not negotiable. This is getting some play now in the state of Massachusetts as well in terms of the Uber drivers, who's a contractor, who's an employee. But we made a decision about a year and a half ago to make sure that these workers, poll workers, are employees of the city, and therefore we are in compliance with state law.
Okay, so what's the starting pay here? What's the hourly pay? Or 'cause
It's
few
hourly
hours a week.
paid, and I don't know, I forgot what we pay them.
I think it's
I think
living
it's in the
wage.
20s or something.
Yeah.
So is it hourly or is it?
Hourly.
Hourly, but, so there's no other benefits other than the hours?
No
that they-
benefits, no.
Yeah, I'm sorry? Yeah.
And they go on inactive status when they're not electioneering.
So I just want to get clear. So each poll worker gets paid the same amount hourly?
I'll leave that
I
to
mean, I understand if it's a warden, so all wardens, all clerks, I understand how it's broken down. But those positions, each position of a poll worker or election
And I
worker.
forget if they pay them by hourly or pay them by stipend. I forget. But Teresa would know that.
Because I'm just trying to find out what's different from a contractor.
So
Because contractors get paid by stipends also, and you just said they get
Yeah.
paid by stipend.
A contractor is paid through a 1099 form, right?
Correct.
So the
Social Security, you still pay taxes on it, yeah, I understand.
versus a temporary employee is paid on with a W-2.
Okay, so I work one election a year, and I can say I'm an employee of the city of Chelsea.
A temporary one-day employee.
So it's
What's a
temporary.
temporary
It's not
one-day
part-time.
employee?
Okay.
Sure.
Okay, it's confusing. All right, thank you, but I'd like to talk to you more about that, Ed.
Yeah, no
I don't
worries.
want to hold up time. Thank you. Thank you folks do a lot of great work over there. You're always happy, embracive. You send out information to let folks know that there's jobs available and you're looking for workers so the council members get it. If we have constituents, we also let them know. So I appreciate all the work your staff and your department do. Thank you. Madam President.
Okay, Counselor Jimenez.
I want to go back to the question that Councilor Recupero had about the amount of folks who live in Chelsea and work here. I believe you mentioned it was like 51% or so. I'm curious, just if you don't know, totally fine. Just how does that compare to other communities? I believe, Devin, you mentioned that it was quite high for kind of comparative communities.
The only other community that I worked for, it was very, very low, right? And the reason for it is because the housing prices were incredibly expensive compared to the pay of the workers, right? So it was virtually impossible to recruit from within the community. I imagine that in a community like Brookline, the same thing happens, where to hire a DPW employee who lives in Brookline is probably going to be really, really difficult.
You're going to have to take a pay cut to work at the city.
That's an assumption, Devin. I don't know if
But
that's
I
true.
think what is true is you will not see these numbers if the community is not diverse. It's impossible to recruit this many people to work here if they don't live here.
Yeah, and I think that the other point that I want to make is that in addition to the 51%, right, we also likely have a lot of folks who have a lot of deep-rooted connections to this community. You know, I was just speaking with an employee recently, right, who said that he goes to sleep in the other community, right, but he comes to work at home, right? Like Chelsea is home even though, you know, they don't live here. So I think it's also important for us to note that we have a lot of folks working in the city who don't live here, who are still very, you know, connected and care deeply about our community. And as it gets harder and harder to live in this city, we need to make sure that, you know, we're also, you know, taking into account those deep connections to our community. So just thank you so much for the work that you're doing.
No, you're welcome. And I will say one thing on the hiring managers in City Hall. They are looking for Chelsea candidates when they get their stack of resumes from wherever they're coming from, because they want to be able to demonstrate that we can still do this. So they're bought into it, and it doesn't always work out, but they're bought into the process and the need.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Robinson.
Yeah, my question, that we're going to be bringing on a new clerk, and I'm wondering why we don't promote the person that's already there to a full-time status by the time that we have to train a new part-time person. Is that a disadvantage, and why aren't we doing more training for people who are working in lesser positions to be able to move up when a job opening happens?
Which role are you questioning, Leo? I'm sorry, Councilor.
Millie. But I believe that's her choice.
She had a choice. Oh, yeah, she's a part-timer as well, 30 hours.
Right. But I'm saying, why wouldn't we offer her the full-time position by the time that we train the part-time person to get up to speed? This person is already hitting the bricks and being able to carry out those functions, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, to be completely candid, I didn't think of it.
Huh?
Never been approached.
Can you use the
do
mic?
so.
I can't hear you.
I said to be completely candid, I never thought of it, to be honest. And I've never been asked to do that either.
Yeah, I mean, I will jump in and say that that particular employee, right, is a Chelsea resident and is incredibly dedicated to her job. I don't believe that that person would want to go full-time, honestly.
Yeah, she's only 5 hours a week between a full-time and a part-time. It wouldn't be enough.
Yeah, and it's a personal decision of the employee. I'd be more than happy to speak to you offline, Councilor.
I just wanted to make sure she was offered the opportunity. If that's the case.
You know, in terms of the role model I want to hire that role model there. So.
She's amazing. And she's a Chelsea resident, lifelong Chelsea resident.
That I know.
All right, Councilor
No other
Sanigan.
question.
All set? Okay. I just have one question, Ed. Is there a connection between our Chelsea High School alumni and is there like a pipeline where we are recruiting some of these students to come back and practice their careers or their skills in Chelsea?
Yeah, is there a way to attract Chelsea residents back? I mean, we do that on a regular basis. Bername Rodriguez is one of them in our office, right? I mean, he's a graduate of Chelsea High. He went to school. He went to Bentley for college. He came back to us. Grace Agosto in our office is another example, right, of Chelsea High School kids. All around this building, you will see a lot of Chelsea High School graduates. I am so excited that this summer we are going to have 2 interns in my office. One of them, his name is Andy. He's a graduate of Chelsea High. He is going to the University of Florida, and he is coming home for the summer, and we are hosting him. And I will be selling him on Chelsea the entire time that he is here. We also have a young lady who is going to Villanova University, which is an amazing school in Pennsylvania, and she is also interning in our office this summer. Her name is Rachel Rojas. I will be selling her as well on coming back into this community. We will always try to recruit people, right out of college because they're cheaper, and we can train them our way, and also because they want to come back and give back to this community.
Love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I believe you have one more to go, right? Are we doing employee benefits?
Page 245.
245.
Employee benefits, page 245.
The biggest thing on employee benefits is the premiums for the Harvard healthcare plan that helps or insures about 1,700 school employees, city employees, and retirees. For the next fiscal year, it was estimated to be a 2% increase, which some comparators, I think in Reading you said it's like 6%.
Absolutely.
So we were happy that the trust is being managed in a way that allows us to keep the premium increases to a minimum. And this is all governed by the PEC agreement in terms of the cost share 80-20 with active employees and retiree employees. And that contract is up for renegotiation in 2025. And this whole thing here is the Medicare that you see here is actually the Medicare payroll tax. It's 1.45% of wages paid by the city. Workers' compensation speaks for itself. We are trending downward there. You would see I took a chance and planned at 50,000 down because our experience is improving so well. So I'll stand here a year from now and tell you if I was right or wrong on that estimate. Any questions on the benefits?
Councilor Sandegate?
Increase in unemployment, it's such a big jump. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so that about a year and a half ago, I'm sorry, I'm too comfortable apparently. About a year and a half ago, we had to get the city manager at the time, Mr. Ambrosino, to submit a request to pay for a number of unemployment claims that came in late. So the post-COVID environment. So that increased, and it was the year we only budgeted 30 grand, so they came in with 100 grand additional appropriation, and we've spent so far about 96,000 as of 12/31/2023. So again, took a chance here, not copied, but mimicked the expenditure for this year into next year to see what happens. That coupled with, like I said, the drop in the expected drop in the workers' comp line item offset sort of that big number on unemployment.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Councilor Jimenez?
So my question, I'm really curious if you could share a little bit about how our health insurance, dental, vision, all these things that should all be health insurance and instead of 3 different things, how do they compare to communities around the area, in terms of coverage, deductibles, that kind of, are our benefits for health insurance and these things competitive?
The feedback, I don't have data in front of me, but the feedback I get from people is that we have one of the better plans out there from a coverage perspective and a deductible perspective. And we've had a number of vendors come our way. They want to say, who's administering your health insurance trust? We're here. We can do this, this, and this for you. And one lady said, I will look through your prospectus. It was pretty, I'd like to have some of the benefits that you had in my plan that I've bought off. But again, no hard data to support that, but that's the feedback we're getting from people who are in the know and would be able to offer an opinion on that.
Yeah,
anecdotally, the 3 of us coming from Brookline, Arlington, and Reading all see that Chelsea's plan is much more competitive.
It's wonderful to hear.
Yes.
Thank you. And then are there variations across contracts, or is it all standardized?
We have one vendor, Harvard Health, 2 plans, PPO or HMO.
Got it. Thank
Which
you.
makes it easier just to administer.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Councillor Brown?
So, thank you, Madam President. So I got a question again with the unemployment. Is this just a one-time thing after you get caught up? Will we see this?
We're hoping it's a one-time thing. There's
Okay.
been some issues with, the state has been dealing with a lot of issues with fraudulent claims being submitted. That's drifting off now. So again, we took a risk to make sure we had enough money in case we have another high year in unemployment, but I think will be less than we planned.
Okay, so you said this came on the former city manager,
Yeah.
Tom Ambrosino.
Correct.
You spent 96,000 of it already,
As of
correct?
12/31.
That's 12/31. So, okay, just wanted to make sure, keep an eye on it.
No, we
Want
will.
to see it again.
It can't go up, it can only go down.
We don't
trust
want
me.
it to go up, yeah. If you're catching up, it can't go up. It doesn't exist anymore. It's done. I mean, once you paid it, it's done, unless
So if we can prove, we get credits.
more receipts are coming in that you haven't reported. Okay.
Let's hope it's a one-time thing.
Councillor Robinson, do you have a question? No, okay.
That's the question. I don't have any questions for you. So I don't believe it.
On this side, any questions? No? Perfect. And thank you so much.
Thank you all, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Al.
Thank you, Council. I am pleased to introduce to you Mr. Mike McAteer, the Director of our Inspectional Services Department, to present his budget this evening, and you'll find that on page 166.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Should be a one-time day. What page was that again, please?
166.
Okay, thank you. We're on 161.
Hi, everybody. I think most of you know my department.
No, I
Councillor?
don't.
Councillor, thank you.
I think most of you know my department by now. You pretty much know what we do, issuing the permits, doing the inspections, into homes, into construction, food inspections, housing inspections. We are asking for an assistant director this year. I have 17 workers. It's so many people coming to me every day, some of my own staff, and a lot of the constituents out there and developers and homeowners have questions that they each go to my inspectors and they come to me. It's just a lot of people to manage. The office has grown, the city's grown so much in the last 7 years that for that we're asking for the exposition.
Okay. Do we have any questions? Shall we start? Councillor Teshi.
With the new position, it's exciting to see you're going to get somebody to assist with the workload, knowing that you do handle a lot. What's going to be the breakdown in terms of what you handle versus what the new position will handle?
So I think he'll be more of a, I'll still do like the meetings, make a lot of decisions, but it's someone that when I'm not there, or if I'm busy in a meeting, or if I'm busy with someone else, he can handle the day-to-day questions. And I'll take care of I'll take care of the long-term goals, but there's gotta be someone there to it happens all the time. The electrical inspector will be looking for me for something. Housing inspector talking about extending a deadline. All these tasks that my department relies on me to answer, and if I could have someone I can trust to handle some of that and make intelligent decisions and with the right knowledge, it would be helpful to the department.
I'll chime in and I'll say that I am incredibly impressed and grateful for how much Mike McAteer does in Chelsea. He handles everything from a trash complaint to a multi-million-dollar building permit, right? I mean, and essentially, when you say ISD in the city, it means Mike, unfortunately for Mike. It is hard for him to go on vacation, and honestly, there is no succession planning at the moment. There is no backup, right? So what we are trying to do is create a better organization for the city. Allowing for them to be some separation of duties, some pipeline, right? Some additional capacity so that Mike can handle the more high-level things.
You know, I definitely think, having that new position will help a lot in terms of streamlining, any other tasks that come before you, especially with just people trying to go with, let's say, construction, and they need, inspections, they need somebody to be on top of it. I've reached out to you a number of times, in the past couple of months, and you've always answered. But I've always known, it's either been you out of a meeting or you about to go into a meeting, so I definitely know you stay busy, and I think, it definitely goes without saying that I am definitely in full support of that new position.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Taylor.
Mike, so I just want to first start out by thanking you for what you do for the city. It's really, I mean, Fidel's absolutely right about, we know how much you do and how many. So I was glad to hear the city manager talking about trying to bolster this department. So with the new positions, is that going to be enough to try to? This was one of the departments that you and the clerk's office, right, are the ones that I worry about having enough people to actually meet the demand of what needs to get done. And I think you're understaffed and overworked, and I hope you can find someone to groom for a succession plan. I know it's hard enough to find qualified people that are, so my hat's off to you as far as that goes. But is this going to be enough to kind of meet the demand?
It will be a huge help. We really can't get any more inspectors till we get more, it all funnels to the top. Yeah. So we get more inspectors and we don't have someone at the top to answer to. Really, and, they have no one to come to. It's too many Indians, not enough chiefs, I guess.
Yeah.
I hope it's enough, yes. I could always use another housing inspector. It took me 8 years to do a 5-year program last time. So you did give me another person, and hopefully I get it done in 5 years this time.
Well, that was going to be my next question about how, going through the next thing, do you expect to meet that 5-year?
We have a very good start for the first year, so I'm hoping, yeah. We're not behind yet.
I just think it's an important thing that we keep track of what's going on in all these departments. I mean, we've talked about it a million times, but I think that, making sure that people's places are safe for people to live in, and that we don't have, especially, fire hazards and other types of, unsafe things going on in those apartments. But I thank you for what you do, and I think that I'll let other people go ahead and do it. I just, I think the budget is again pretty much in line here with what is expected. So, kudos to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Recupero, could you please just move your mic as close as possible so that...
But I talk loud.
I know.
I don't need a microphone.
It's for the folks at home.
I am a microphone.
But the public want to hear you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McAteer. You're a good guy, a good inspector. You're an attribute to the city. You do your job. I never heard a complaint about you. You help the people as much as you can. You're an understanding guy. You're not one of these inspectors that go above their head and say, I'm the law, and that's it. You're not one of them. That's what you need. But I have 2 questions. What is a supervisor of housing and code enforcement? What is the difference between code enforcement supervisor and a supervisor of housing and code enforcement?
So the supervisor of housing, it basically handles the housing inspectors, the 5-year program, any kind of housing complaint, and that's basically where they stop. The other supervisor handles the food inspections, the trash inspections, all the, we wrote $400,000 of tickets last year.
Okay, I get what you're saying
So,
now.
yeah, one does housing, the other does everything else to do with health,
So
trash,
they're
restaurants.
two different positions.
Yes.
But that's not, here you think it's the same, because supervisor
Yeah,
of
no.
housing and code enforcement, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they're two different
Yeah, they're
ones.
two different
One
positions.
is an inspector for food, more or less, and the other
Yes.
one is an inspector for housing.
Exactly.
I got you. That's one. The next position, the next thing I wanted to ask you was, over here, there's something here that, you have, what is your cost for your cars? Did they increase this year?
No, I haven't gone.
You expect to?
I don't use that gas every year. I don't, I got a, it's a newer car I got, so I don't expect to need to use much as far as repairs. It hasn't gone up since I've been here, the cost of the car.
Something else too. What is forms?
We go through a lot of forms. So it went up, it was 1,800, we ran out. Or we almost ran out, we're almost running out, so we went up to 2,500. There's a million forms.
Those are
Mail-ins.
forms that people fill out?
Yeah, driveway,
Do you
curb cuts.
charge them for it?
No.
I mean, they're given free by the city?
Yeah, and some of those forms are things we mail for the 5-year program to fill out and send back.
One more question. This printing stuff went up 40%. You must be printing a lot of stuff.
Printing goes, yeah. We're supposed to be paperless, but it just can't be done. It's the printer itself. The printer, they're killing us. Every year they go up.
And let me ask you a question. Why did your longevity go down? Some employees retired?
Yeah, probably, yeah. My electrical inspector's part-time, he doesn't get it anymore.
Oh, that's good.
Scott Bridges left, so that's, they were getting probably $1,500 each, so it's $3,000 down.
Oh, okay, thank you. No more question.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Danaidy Garcia.
Mike, I want to thank you for everything you do for the city, and I'm super excited about this position. I feel like you need a hand and a break and maybe a good vacation where you can detach and not answer any phone calls.
Thank you.
Much needed. I have a quick question. 21D violations, is the supervisor of housing code enforcement, will he be in charge or she be in charge of that specific, or just everyone?
So we're mostly writing 40U violations, and so they both write them. The housing inspectors are writing more of them now, so they write them for housing violations. When the landlord doesn't make the repairs, they need to write. On the other side, the supervisor of code enforcement, that's the trash inspections. They write tickets too, so neither one's in charge of it.
So, but maybe my question is, when they appeal them, right?
Yeah.
Will that person be the one?
We don't have someone in charge of it, so whoever writes the ticket shows up at the appeals. Peter does a great job with it. All our inspectors, after a while, you quickly, even our new inspectors are pretty good at the appeals already. There's nobody in charge. I haven't had any problem with I'd make someone in charge if there was any issues, but we haven't had any issues.
Good.
So basically, if you write the ticket, you're responsible to do your own appeal. Doesn't matter who you are.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for everything, Mike.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Brown.
Thank you. I just was asked if you can just enlighten me about this professional and technical service, and also the new demo boarding.
What's the second one?
The demo boarding.
Oh, so the demo boarding, remember, it was like 5,000, maybe up to a few years ago.
Mhm.
That's just basically if there's a fire and the building needs to be boarded, we can't get a hold of the owner, we'll board it ourselves. We had that one building that needed to be torn down. I don't even remember the address, maybe on Orange Street. So Tom had to go to the council to get the money, the $25,000 to tear it down. We haven't done it since. That's why he raised it from 5,000 to 25,000. I hope we never need to use 25,000. I think I've bought up one building so far this year, but it's there just in case if there's an emergency and a building needs to be raised. Tom's thinking was he didn't want to spend the 30 days to go in front of the council for the money, so he has it in there. I promise I won't spend it for anything else.
So normally there's a fire, and the fire is put out. Is there a certain amount of time that whoever needs to board it up before we step in?
Yeah, but sometimes it's so dangerous that it needs to be boarded right away.
And so we, now.
So we'll board it, we get our money back, but it doesn't go, it goes to the general fund, it doesn't go to my
Okay,
department.
okay, so we get the money back.
Yeah.
So who actually does the boarding? What department in your, in inspectional service about?
Oh,
Or personnel?
we call a board-up company.
So you
we use
are
an action.
experienced in doing it?
Yeah.
So you got
yeah.
drills and?
Not us, we have a subcontractor.
A subcontractor?
Yeah, we
okay,
don't do
all
any
right.
of that.
So you don't do it?
We don't do anything.
So you
No, we
hire
make a
some-
phone call, they come, they board the building up, we get a bill.
Okay, I
And then,
understand.
after we get the bill, I send it to legal, and they find a way to get the money back.
Okay. It looks new to me. I just saw it there, and I knew there was other folks doing it. I just
Because
didn't know
it's
if
so
we know.
high now, it never was that high, but we don't use it. The only time we're ever gonna use that money is if there's an
Okay.
extreme emergency to tear down a building.
Okay, so what's the professional and technical? side?
Professional, technical, we really don't use much. That's for our
So
computer
you're
systems.
requesting $6,000. It's almost a.
Yeah, if you look through the years, we don't really use that
So why are you
money.
requesting the money?
Because for our computer systems, the software, it's for the computer software.
Okay.
Anytime we have a problem with it, and we're always talking about trying to upgrade our software system. Right now, we're living with what we have.
Okay.
I think maybe
you know
maybe the
what?
raises, because
We're here to find out what you need, what appropriations you're
Yeah.
making. How
again,
much-
that's another emergency type thing. If we need it, it needs to be there. I try not to touch that either.
I mean, it's 6,000. 2023, it says you spent $946.
Yeah, just
And you're
base.
requesting, 6,000 this year.
Yeah, it's consultant, we get 6,000 every year, I think it's up to 8. It's basically in case we need consultant services with our software database systems. It's just another, like, fail-safe.
Yeah, truly, it's peanuts to the budget, but just explanation is good for us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Jimenez?
So, Mike, I'm curious, how much would it take for you to come board my house yourself?
Oh, my God, I don't.
Kidding.
Probably get to take a heart attack trying.
I'm curious, I missed the beginning of your answer to Councilor Taylor earlier. You were talking about kind of what it would take to make sure that we're able to get this all done within the next 5 years, and you were talking about new position. Was that the position that we have in there, or were you referring about an additional?
No, last year or the year before even, you gave me a third house inspector. So we got through the building, the whole city, inspected every single rental unit, and it took us 8 years. So the law says the law we set up, we're supposed to do it in 5 years. So we're 3 years off.
So then, I guess my question is, in order for you to feel, do you feel comfortable that you would be able to do it within 5? And then, if not, what would it take? Would it take
I'm confident. Maybe another, I'll let you know next year, maybe another housing inspector.
Yeah, okay. No, and
Hopefully not.
that's ultimately my question. How many housing inspectors do you think that we would need, continuously to be able to do this and do it well? And, I just want to make sure that,
So we have 3 doing it now.
We're living in a constrained resources situation, but this is a really important part of the work that the city does, and I want to make sure that we understand what would it take to fully resource
It would
your
be
department.
it would be on my wish list to get one more.
One more.
But I think I'm hoping to do it on a shoestring and do it now with what I have.
And we appreciate you doing that, but also it's helpful to understand kind of what it would take, so that you're not working 80-hour weeks for the whole
If I
year.
had another, it feels like I get so much more done. It's 25% more.
Yeah, but thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Robinson?
Yes, I think everybody just looks at ISD as you just do inspections. So if you could take us through a scenario, I come in, I want to build a building, the lot is not big enough for me. What are the next steps
Oh
through
my
your
God.
office?
And it's getting worse because someone comes in, they have an undersized lot, they put an application in, I write them a denial letter, they go to the board. It's not that easy. They come, they argue with you, they think they meet code, they don't understand our zoning. We have these meetings, then they go in front of the board, sometimes they change the plans again, so I gotta do another zoning review. They come back again, they go to the board, and then they know things aren't going well with the board, they send it, they try to withdraw without prejudice, they come back again. There's one on Library Street, I don't know, they finally got their building permit, I think it's maybe 4 units or 8. He tried 10, he went down to 9, they just move it around. It's a lot more work now with the developers. There's less of a profit margin for them, so they're tightening the pencil. It's turned into labor intensive.
And it just ties up a lot of your time by reviewing the plans and
Yes,
still trying to get your inspectors out doing the inspection.
yes, definitely.
That's my only question.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Sanigan.
Yes, I just have a comment. I know Mike from working on the beautification committee, so even though you are so busy, you always make time to send a representative or you come yourself so that we can work on keeping the city beautiful and deal with problem properties. So thank you. And now in my role as a counselor, I have had a couple of calls from constituents, and both times the people were so upset that they hung up on me. So I can't imagine what your day is like. I was polite and kind and trying to gather information, and bang. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no other questions, I don't have any questions for you, Mike. I know exactly how hard you work, and we are very lucky to have you,
Thank you.
in this city.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, councilors. Up next is our Health and Human Services Department. It is on page 210. And I am so grateful that the great Nick Keefe is next to me to join me tonight. I'll say that page 211 and 212 of the, 212, 213 of this budget, it's a very simple budget. There are 3 positions that are filled in this budget. There are 3 positions that are funded in this budget. One of them is unfilled, and the other one was previously unfilled. So Ned is really helping me out personally, but also the administration by holding the position of HHS director, right? As we take on this transition, so he has moved essentially from his previous role as deputy city manager, and is now, while sitting in our office, doing the position of HHS director in the department. We have Julie Nguyen, who is a longtime employee of the city, and the last position was previously Margarita Franco. That position has been vacant since Margarita retired, but it is a very simple budget, which is again shown on page 213, 214. Ned?
Sure, I'll just share a minute just to describe the structure. So there are 5 divisions under the HHS administration office. And so HHS administration sort of both in the director who is charged with policy and strategy for each of the 5 divisions, which are in this order tonight: public health, senior center, veterans, library, and recreation. So we consolidate in HHS administration all the financial functions of those 5 divisions, and that's both management of the budget. Julie Nguyen manages each of these budgets. Also grant administration, grant compliance, risk analysis for each of the grants, so federal and state compliance on the grants. So there's some efficiency that's gained. Julie has an amazing ability to be able to negotiate through each of these different divisions and deal with each of the division heads in managing their budgets, their grants, and their cash flows through the year. So Margarita Franco filled an administrative role, but during the time that, during much of COVID, this position is sat vacant, and after Luis Prado left. And so some of these functions moved upstairs to the executive level. Tom and myself filled in as that kind of interim role. And so I think that these units have, to a large part, are headed by skilled professionals. You know each of them. And But I think we're looking for some efficiencies in being able to coordinate their activities and meet needs in the community that may be shared among all, to a certain extent, among all of our divisions. So,
And I just wanted to say that I personally thank Ned for sticking around. He's been a huge help to me, and also the team, right? We are brand new, in many cases, into this community, into this team, into this role, and it is a lot to learn, right? There is no way that I will get all of the relationships or the institutional knowledge that Ned has overnight, but I am extracting from him as much as I can. So that's what I'll be doing as long as I can.
Thank you. All right, I'll start with questions in this corner. Councilor Sandegate, Councilor Robinson, Jimenez, Councilor Brown.
On the remarks that our city manager stated, they're heartfelt and also received and given the same direction. And we know you're going to do a good job. You've done a good job since you've been here. So as long as we can keep you, we'll keep you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Councilor Tanay Garcia.
Happy you're here, that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Tanay.
Thank you for staying.
Sorry, I'll just say that I heard Michael Jordan is coming back from retirement, right? So that's he's on Michael Jordan.
Recupero.
Congratulations on your new job. How do you like your new job?
I can work more closely with you, Giovanni, so it's perfect.
Councilor Taylor.
I just, oh, are you?
No, I have one question for you. Your staff, this is just under you, right? Is you a financial analyst and to be determined, right? That's just your staff.
Yes.
So what is the one to be determined position that you want to have to help you even more?
This position is vacant, and I'd suggest that, over time we'll sort out what the role of that position might be. But for now, I'm taking a little bit of time to sift it through. It's been vacant now for almost 2.5 years, and there's plenty of work to be done, a lot of guidance, navigating of people that come into City Hall, but how that role is looked at and managed has to be understood better. So no rush to fill that. We'll do fine as it is.
You're not in a rush?
No.
All right, thank you.
Councilor Taylor.
So that kind of goes into what my question really is, and that's about the future of this department. So, I mean, do I take it that is also to be determined?
I believe so. I mean, yes, I guess the answer is yes.
Okay. Yeah, and Todd, we're undertaking some planning within each of these divisions. Particularly, we'll lead with public health, probably follow it up with the library during the next 6 months. So looking at strategic thinking in each of those units, and that will help us understand the relationship to the HHS central office and how they might work better or independently. So we'll keep you informed.
Thank you. That's all.
Councilor Teshi.
Yeah, no, I would say, I mean, to me, it makes sense that you're connecting all those different departments because there is there needs to be an understanding that these departments should be working together, right, and cooperating with each other. So it's nice to see there's going to be a single link, and that's going to be you directing all that to make sure that our city is best using all of its resources and all of its potential events as means to connect the community and to really provide that service, which we claim we provide and we have provided. So just continue doing that better and expanding on further.
Thanks. I appreciate your support.
Thank you, Counselor. My comments were going to be the exact comments that Counselor Teshi just shared. I love to see collaboration and these departments working together, so I'm excited for that. I'm sad that you still haven't let you go, but I'm happy you're still here, if that makes any sense. Thank you so much, Ned.
Okay, okay. Ciao.
Thank you, Ned. And up next is the Health Office, which is on page, begins on page 215, and it is led by our Health Director, Mrs. Flora Maya, who is a Chelsea resident
Yes, I am.
and a very high qualified, I'm sorry, it was a previous conversation we were having.
Okay. An inside joke.
It didn't sit down, yeah.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here, and thank you for taking the time to just listen a little bit to what we have accomplished in fiscal year 24 in the Public Health Division. I really briefly wanted to essentially underscore some of the new services that we have been able to provide out of the Public Health Division. And one of those is the childhood immunization programs, which was launched last year in July. And since its inception to date, we have been able to provide 657 vaccines to 189 Chelsea pediatric residents. And as you can imagine, especially now in the times where we're seeing a lot of newly arrived families, and also recognizing how important it is for communicable disease and to create essentially safe environments within our schools that all the children are vaccinated. We have been able to essentially support our medical systems in this process, given the fact that a lot of them experience shortages in staff, and therefore families are not able to get a timely scheduled appointment. So while the challenge is still extensive, we're able to provide and fill a role in that and meet the needs of Chelsea families. Another successful initiative that we launched last year was the Special Needs Registry. Some of you may be familiar with it. And the aims of the registry was to more efficiently and effectively identify Chelsea residents who, in times of emergencies such as it was COVID, may need additional support from the city. At that time, it was really difficult for us to identify homebound residents who needed vaccines at that time, and this was before the state rolled out their home vaccination program. And we really had to rely on multiple systems to identify Chelsea residents. So to the aim of being able to readily identify residents during times of need, to also help us prepare for emergencies, public health in partnership with our emergency response team, fire, police, and emergency management launched the Special Needs Registry. We're working with our peers in HHS to also promote that registry. And we've been able to, still a really slow process of enrollment, but we have close to 60 individuals enrolled. And we have developed plans of engagement that consist of home visits to provide education on emergency plan, evacuation response, as well as work on assessment of fire hazards. And we do this in partnership with our fire. And our community health worker that recently came on board in November is the one coordinating a lot of the initiatives related to the Special Needs Registry. And finally, yet very importantly, I would like to highlight the strides that we've made internally to address the lead concerns in the community. And this is something that everyone has, I think, been concerned of since the event with the Tobin Bridge, but also underscoring that that was just one exposure event compared to what Chelsea residents may experience due to a lot of the environmental justice here in the community. And also the burden that COVID placed on, again, routine schedule appointments with lead screenings. I am, I think, it was very surprising, not surprising, but also shocking to see that our lead screening rates drastically decreased, and unfortunately we have not rebounded. So one of our goals for this year is to promote lead awareness, work with our city departments to essentially augment the uptake of services already available, such as the service line replacement program, and work with our clinical providers to make sure that our families are getting their children tested and are adhering to the routine LED schedules. And in order to continue expanding our services, to continue promoting awareness on really key health topics, and to promote preparedness for emergencies, you will see that some of our increases are around medical supplies, community events, and employee training and conferences. I think as a newer division, it is important for us, and for us meaning myself, the public health nurse, or community health worker, to engage in trainings that are provided here in the state of Massachusetts to make sure that we are bringing our department up to the standards and are meeting the needs of Chelsea residents.
Thank you so much, Flor. We will start in this corner. Councilor Robinson? Councilor Jimenez?
Quick question, and I'm excited that I get to talk about one of my pet issues, lead awareness. And so I'm curious, so the goal here that you have is to increase the screening rate to greater than 66%, which is great. I'm curious, what was it before COVID and how far down did it drop?
So I think from 2017, 18, and 19, I saw screening rates up to 90% in Chelsea. With COVID, and just wanted to say that the 66% is from the reports from the state in 2022. I still haven't received the reports for 2023 on what that looks like, but I don't anticipate those to be very different from the 66%. And what I've learned from DPH, state DPH, is that while other communities suffered the same challenges that we did, many have rebounded their lead screening rates, but we have not. And so that is really a concern of ours, again, under the circumstances and the environment that a lot of our families, due to old housing stock, live in.
Councilor Robinson?
Are you getting reports from the hospital that they're testing kids for lead, that we would have a much accurate number?
So one of our first initiatives last year with the community, with our hospital systems, was for them to do their own data retrieval to identify Chelsea kids who were not up to date. And what came out of that is that we have 3 major providers: East Boston, Cambridge Health Alliance, and MG8. Combined, that number, and don't quote me on the figure, I know that I reported on this, but I don't have it off the top of my head, might have been close to 700 kids, age-appropriate kids, so between 9 months and 4 years, that had not yet been tested or had missed their test. So what the hospitals did is that they developed an outreach strategy where they messaged their patient population. They also messaged them through their MyChart, provided phone calls for community health workers, as well as hard letters. And they also developed internal protocols to minimize burdens of testing, so meaning standard procedures, so that as families receive this communication, they could easily just get tested without needing to see a PCP ahead of time. To date, unfortunately, I don't have the results of that campaign. Given that data, unfortunate that infrastructure doesn't move as quickly, and we rely on other systems to give us that information. But I can provide it to you as soon as it becomes available.
All right, thank you.
I got a follow-up question with the lead awareness. What type of campaign are you doing with the awareness to bring people into this climate? We want to check you out, we want to look into your house or wherever it may be.
So we just actually, as of maybe 3 weeks ago, launched a lead task force, which consists of the Public Health Division, DPW, Housing and Community Development. We're also working with our housing as well to really look at the infrastructure around how services that are available are essentially accessed, and what are the barriers to people accessing those? Like, what are the fears that residents have? And I must say, Burnaby is also part of that task force. And what we are going to do is first work with our child-based providers, use this as the cohort by which we can streamline a process that we later can expand to the rest of the community. But we know we need to start somewhere. And we decided that working with our family-based providers, build on the relationships already in existence with this group, and also building on the services that the city already has that we just know they're not, for whatever reasons, they're not being accepted by residents. We could streamline a process and then use that as a starting point.
So has there been any collaboration with the school department? Have you had any conversation?
With the school department, we sent out the text communication back in January underscoring what the hospitals were doing.
So you send out the test?
Text message.
Text.
Yes, sorry.
For just the school, right? But
For the school, for the kids,
To
exactly.
pass on to the students where they can bring it home to their parents, or just for the knowledge of the schools?
No. So the school sent out a text message to the families directly.
Okay.
And I must say that those messages also went in English and Spanish, and I know that the hospitals themselves were able to send messages in the language appropriate to their patients.
Now, I see you have the contract services. Are you working with, I assume these are medical providers, correct?
So these contract services are specifically not for our medical providers. So the contract services are more through our social services. So that includes a contract with North Suffolk Community Centers to address some of the challenges that ISD may notice or observe during inspections that require additional support. We also have a navigator contract with also North Suffolk, and the navigator contract, it is focused on building the trust with Chelsea residents who may be unhoused and suffering from substance or opioid use disorders.
So none of this funding goes towards the campaign of lead?
No, so the funding for the campaign of lead will come through the community events, some of the advertising, some of our printing costs, essentially looking more at the design of some of the communication materials. And we'll work with different channels to disseminate that information, but most likely will be participation at a lot of community events, and obviously leveraging the relationships with the school systems, our childcare providers, and our hospital systems.
So that's what the 2,500 was and the 3,000 proposed for this year? So you can go to these community events, have tables sit up and give the information out?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Danaidy Garcia.
No questions, thank you.
Councillor Recupero.
Yeah, I have a question. What is NALOXOEME? What is that? Is there some kind of a utilization system?
Sorry, where?
On page 215. You say you're giving the children 5 to 18. What is it?
Naloxone?
What is that?
Naloxone is essentially an overdose reversal medication.
Narcan.
Exactly Narcan, yes.
It's a different name.
Different name, same thing.
So you distribute that to teenagers?
The naloxone right now, we have one distribution point, and that is our Navigator program. So our Navigator program responds to overdoses. We participate in overdose calls at the police station. So we are the participant of that. So meaning we have the standing orders, the doctor's orders, where we can acquire the Narcan, and I then give the supplies to our navigators who distribute it to when they do wellness checks, overdose visits, or to people who may need it based on their connections
Do we
and
get a
touch
lot
points.
of overdoses? Because I see the police department's got Narcan, the fire department got Narcan, now you give it out. So what is the average overdose that you see in our city?
I don't have figures on overdose. It is something that we are looking to track, and we have been in conversations with the police station, and I know that as a collaborative, as a region, we're looking to participate into a essentially overdose tracking data system that will be able to share that information and will be able to do better tracking of it, because I do agree it would be important to have all of those figures. I have very minimal information that, again, I can provide to you as a follow-up with what we have.
It's just, because so many people have it, so are we other communities at risk for that?
Yes, unfortunately, I would say that the community of Chelsea is at risk for overdoses. A lot of our residents do suffer from substance use disorders and also a lot of mental health disorders, which are essentially, I think, pre-existing conditions or conditions that could lead to excessive use of substances.
Another question. You have here youth substance abuse use prevention regional manager. What does that mean? Do you keep track of all these?
So that is part of essentially the city of Chelsea is the fiduciary. We are the one who holds the grant, but it is Healthy Chelsea, the organization that does the oversight of this role. So this role's focus is in coalition building. This is through the Mass Call grant. And what they do is that they build partnerships with the schools, with other regions, and try to bring prevention programs to the schools. So one of the areas that they're working on is mental health first aid for youth, and I believe teens. And this is a way of preventing. So we are responsible for the, I guess, payroll aspect of this and to serve as an advisor to that coalition. But it is Jen Kelly who supervises their day-to-day.
I have one more question for you, then I have no more. Years ago, right, they did a study about the planes dropping fuel over the city of Chelsea. Whatever became of that? Because when they land, they clean out the tanks, and the fuel lands on the people here. They had a significant study years ago about that, but it never got results. Is there anything that you can add to us to tell us how this has happened? Because the planes still come over where we are, and they still release the fuel.
I unfortunately don't have a historical context on that. I think it might have preceded my time, so I'm not sure I have a...
They said that used to cause asthma.
Yes, I mean, fumes or salt pile, different environmental pollutants will trigger or lead to asthma in our community. But regarding that study specifically, I unfortunately don't have a results for you.
Can you find out for us?
Do you have a name of the study or have information on who conducted that?
That was 10 years ago.
Okay. So we'll follow up with most likely Green Roots.
Okay, Councilor Taylor.
I just want to circle back to the opioid crisis, and we've now been kind of, I don't know, what I would call kind of fully engaged for a few years now with the hub and the downtown task force. Are we making any progress? Or maybe I should rephrase that and say, or ask, how are we gauging our progress as far as this goes? I know we spend, by the way, I think this is the correct policy to follow, but, I understand that it's, there's a lot of factors that we don't control, and, we can't control what gets dumped on the street, but as far as, the numbers of people that were getting help, how many of those people successfully complete and kind of follow the, and, how many people are we identifying? And I know that we put more money into the whole mental health aspect of it all. So, I'm just kind of looking for a general kind of, is this having, an effect? Are we seeing less people, or is it just more and more and more and an ever-escalating problem.
You know, I don't have any like head count, for instance, but we have a downtown task force meeting that is every other Thursday. At the police station, I know that Councilor Sandegate goes to them. I know that a few of the councilors have gone to them. I think that the success of that initiative is not measured in numbers, it is measured in stories, right? And what essentially they say is that they have a personal relationship with each one of these individuals, and some of these individuals are refusing help, and it doesn't matter how many times they are approached, how many times they are reached out for service, but the success stories are beautiful, right? I mean, and we share these stories in the downtown task force meeting of people who were on the streets, who were struggling, and are able to get out.
I mean, it's clear we're helping some people.
We are helping a
no
lot of
question
people.
about
We are
that.
helping a lot of people.
But I guess what our jobs are is to try to make a determination about how effective we are for the dollars that we're spending, the things that we're doing. Do we need to do more of that, or do we need to kind of look to something else to try to make that additional difference? I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that it's hard to measure effectiveness when it is a very difficult population, right? However, what I will say is that what I will say is that Chelsea has become a leader in this field, right? To the point where Dan Cortez is now the national trainer of this stuff, right? And the Chelsea Hub has now become the model, right, of how to appropriately deal with people, right, in a humane way, and not in a way that kicks the problem away from our community and to another community, but in a way that seeks to transform the lives of these individuals. Not all the individuals, because we can't save everyone, right, but at least the success stories are beautiful.
Yeah. So the other question that I have that's kind of related, I just wanted to know more about the North Suffolk Public Health Collaborative. That where we're joining with our partners in Revere and Winthrop about. I know that we had done this or tried to do it with the emergency, and now this. I think it's a good idea to try to get something going in a larger area than just us. But if you'd like to just give us a brief explanation of that, please.
Yes, so really brief background. Outside of Massachusetts, most of the states run public health county-based. Massachusetts is one of the only states that's municipal-based. Now, though, the state is moving through a regionalized process by which funds are then dispersed. So this is a reason why Revere, Winthrop, and Chelsea came together and have applied for grants as a collaborative. Through this collaborative, we have been able to now build capacity to run the childhood immunization program, because each of the municipalities shares the same nurse who runs the program in Revere and in Chelsea. Similarly, we have been able to augment capacity and hire for an epidemiologist. I think when we think of data, and as I'm hearing you wanting more of these metrics for opioid, these are questions that we can then ask our EPI to work with us to develop so that we can provide more of this quantitative information. So without that grant, a lot of us don't have the capacity for administration. And also, it really requires the grant process itself. We don't have capacity for that as well. So by regionalizing, coming together, we have now more capacity than we have individually. And I think we also recognize that some of the challenges, such as the environmental pollutants, affect the three regions together. So again, we're able to build upon our collective needs and are also to then achieve more by sharing resources.
All right, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Councillor Tesh?
Would you mind naming what the highest age is for youth that can go and receive assistance?
Do you mean childhood, like immunizations,
Like-
vaccines?
No,
Or
as in age number, as in how or what's the oldest?
that has
when you
come
say youth.
through our vaccine program,
No, with the
or-
youth substance abuse.
youth substance prevention program.
Yes.
So that is high school based. So a lot of their interventions are at the high school.
So, somebody 20, 21 years old, 22, no.
So the program, again, the Mass Call grant, it works on coalition building and working on priorities and setting those priorities with the schools and with other providers. And so it is not necessarily activity-based, although they do and will hold mental health first aid trainings for, I believe, 10th graders.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm not sure if I
No, no worries.
answered
That
your
makes sense. That
question
makes sense.
or.
Yeah, because I was thinking this might have been like an open to the public type of thing, but it sounds like it's just school-related, targeted at students.
Yes, and
That makes
again, it's really building on that collective effort to combat something that all of the communities are seeing, while each community has autonomy to spearhead different initiatives. And this is Crystal, who is the project coordinator for that Mass Call grant. Oh. Yes, please.
I go to Youth Hub weekly and work with Crystal, and I know that we're working on initiatives at the middle school level, and that's been identified as an area where we would like to trickle down, because there is the Teen Action Program at the high school,
At the high
et
school.
cetera. So that is on the agenda for the Youth Hub.
Thank you for adding that.
Councillor Robinson?
Seeing the grant that we give to North Suffolk Mental Health in regards to the opiates, and if so, we should be getting numbers to know how many overdoses and things of that nature. We used to have them come and present to this council, but somewhere along the way, I guess it's ended up in your lap, and that information should be shared with us.
We can definitely do that.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Recupero, before you start, I'll just remind my colleagues that we are now 40 minutes behind, so if we can just...
This is a very important question. When you sanction people, right, and the navigators go and get them, right, where do you bring them? I know that a long time ago, we used to have one bed. The city paid for one bed. One bed for the Chelsea residents. So if you have them, like before, they used to bring them to all the rehabs. Like there used to be the house in East Boston, where there's houses all over the place where they house. So now, I remember once years ago, the city allotted for one bed, for a person. Now, since we have almost, like you said, a crisis, where do these people go when they need some place to have? Where do you put them?
So, no, so the navigators, again, as our city manager mentioned before, sometimes they will encounter individuals who may not be ready. Those who are ready to go into a detox center will be placed, and there are different state centers that will accept mass health recipients, because a lot of our city residents have that, and many also have safety net plans. So again, there are state programs, rehab programs that accept. It is challenging, to your point, but they do everything they can to network between each of these rehab centers to find a bed for an individual who's ready to go into detox.
So how many beds has the city of Chelsea paid for?
I don't think we pay for them because, again, these are mass health or insurance-based, or some of them accept safety net. But again, these numbers are figures that I can try to get for you all more specifically.
Thank you.
Thank you, Flor. Thank you for everything that you do
you.
for the community.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Phil. And up next, we have our Elder Affairs Department, which is on page 220. And I will say that we have another a Chelsea resident who is a department head. 220. We start on page 220 in the book.
Oh, Chelsea resident?
Chelsea resident, department head, Chelsea resident. Lifelong Chelsea resident.
make big
Graduate of Chelsea High School.
Proudly.
See what he said? They ain't nothing.
All right, let's get on track, guys. We're 40 minutes behind.
I know, right?
Yes. Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Please don't feel pressured to ask questions. So I'll just get right into, I guess I'll start with our accomplishments and goals since last year. And as you will see, an accomplishment to date is our new fitness studio, which is fantastic and being used daily. We also are, we've expanded our, we've changed our hours of operation to meet the same as City Hall hours, so that's working out really well to offer programming at night. And the idea of that was to just offer some programming, a level of program to those who are still working that are senior aged. The Senior Advocate Program is expanding to provide services at more than one local housing authority, public housing authority. So right now it's 260 Clark, and it is going to 14 Bloomingdale, Bloomingdale, and then Admirals Hill developments. So that's working out. And the cafe is not ready yet, but it is on the move and ready to get going. The goals, again, is the cafe. I was hoping to get that done sooner, but it's taken a little bit longer than that. The senior shuttle service is increased a little bit in hours, so we are happy with that. We do have I'm sure you've seen a column in the newspaper relating to senior issues. So I hope you read it.
All right. Any questions? I will start this corner.
Again, comments, just because I am so happy to be able to come to the senior center and volunteer and help, and senior living on Bellingham Hill is in my constituency, and so to be able to meet the seniors at the center has been wonderful for me. So
Yes.
Thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you for your support.
Counselor?
For your leadership at the senior center, and you've made it grow quite a bit. And I want to take my hat off to you.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I have a good team.
Counselor Jimenez? Counselor Brown?
I read the column every Thursday. That's what I said under breath, but also I appreciate every time
I'm sure,
I-
Counselor, you relate to them?
Yes, they're very nice and they're very enjoyable reads. But I also want to thank you for you and your team for all the different programs that you put over. The last time I was there, I was trying to get a little workout, and the seniors weren't giving up on the treadmills, and they was working out. And I know you had in the past some Tai Chi, and you lost the instructor, but you know, every time I go over there, I meet someone, I stay longer than I intend to, but it's so warm and so welcoming
Thank
over
you.
there, and I see you over there in instance. And I appreciate the work that you're doing, not only you, but your husband also, and our vulnerable seniors, and making sure that they have folks to care for them and really to like energize them and get them up. So I appreciate the programs that you initiated over there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Counselor Garcia?
I just want to thank you. You do an amazing work, and our community is very lucky to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor
I only-
Recupero.
Ah. I see here you've got a new Starbucks for seniors.
What is that?
Starbucks.
Starbucks, yeah, sort of. We're hoping, we're actually going to be getting donations from Starbucks, so it's close.
So,
I hope you will all be able to join and welcome and have a cup of coffee in the cafe. It's going to be fantastic.
where's it gonna be? What are you gonna put it?
It's going to be in the TV area. If you remember, you go past the reception desk and there's that area there. It's going to fit about 15, seat for 15 tables. We're also going to utilize it as a digital literacy tech cafe as well.
And I seen it here, you got 20,000 with digital literacy part, I seen it.
Yes, we applied for the grant and utilized the grant funds really fast.
Well, that's good. Congratulations on giving us old people Starbucks for cheap.
Thank you.
You're
Councilor.
welcome.
Councilor Taylor.
I just echo what everybody else has said. Thank you very much for what you do, a great job. We all appreciate your work, and we are lucky to have you, so I'll pass it on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Teshi.
I don't think I have to say it again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you,
Back
Tracy.
on track.
Appreciate it.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Up next is our Director of Veterans Affairs, Mr. Francisco Toro. This is on page 225 on your book. 225. I'll say that this is a very small department. Francisco, who is our veterans agent, and he is supported by a very part-time employee, Juan Carlos. They do incredible work. And really do support our veterans. For the sake of time, I mean, maybe we'll take your questions. Go
We're
ahead.
good to go?
Yep, questions.
Okay, great. Are there any questions? No, no questions. Are we good?
Asking him anything. Was he exempt?
Oh, Councilor Teshi has a question. Councilor Teshi, you have the floor.
So, I'm looking at where it talks about personnel. The Veteran Services Officer is the main contact and knowledge and source for all issues pertaining to veterans and military members. What, if any, would you say are kind of systematic concerns from the veterans community?
Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to explain a little bit about what we do. But for the veterans, it's a community that changes. When I first started, there were more veterans, and then it switched from, the older Vietnam, Korea, World War II veterans. When they started to transition, then we started to get more widows. And then now we're getting more younger people. Excuse me. So overall, there should be in the ballpark of 1,800 military family members somewhere within the city of Chelsea, but we only can enumerate somewhere around 400. I only have one part-time staffer who, has to take care of his own veteran-related issues. Currently, we do have a food service program, and we do home delivery for the veterans or military family members who are disabled and unable to get food for themselves. We are working on some other projects. We're trying to complete placing all of the tombstones at Woodlawn Cemetery because there's many veterans there who didn't have family members to order it for them. So we're going through each one and trying to track down their paperwork so that the VA will supply them. We're also looking forward to Garden Cemetery and that completion of that project. But we did have quite a few issues this year, mostly technical. We're trying to, they've implemented, the state has implemented a new web portal, and it's been updated and at least 6 times. And when I say updated, it's not like an update like on a phone where you know, you don't do anything, it's just, it looks a little different. With the web portal, there's just how you do the processes. So you have to relearn the software at many intervals during the year. We have to take 3 weeks of training every year.
Do you have
just to
somebody from
keep
the
up.
state?
I'm sorry?
Do you have somebody from the state that those trainings, or they send you instructions? How do you figure it out?
No, we have to go to a conference each time. So one focuses, it's state sponsored, so it's kind of like how to work their software, how to administer state veteran services. It's a little light on the VA stuff, and then the agency stuff, partner collaborations. It's usually about 4 to 5 days. Then there's the February training, and then there's a training coming up in June. Because the state now has changed the role of the Veteran Services Officer, and we're gonna all have to get federal certification in order to complete the applications for all of our clients.
Right.
So, you know, it's a lot of technical stuff that I really didn't anticipate when I started, 17, 18 years ago. So, that's kind of like what's been tying us down. And then we want to increase in communications, but we've been having technical difficulties in those areas as well. Unable to print out large mailings, and we've gotten various departments in the city involved to try and help out on that, but we still haven't been able to get over that hump yet. So, I'm a one guy shop, and we do claims. We'll repair your car. We'll fix your home. We'll get adapted ramps. We'll get you a chairlift in your house, food, clothing. If you need suits for work, if you need training for this or education, buy a house, need a tax abatement for the home or a tax abatement for your car.
Do it all.
So for the 400 people that we kind of interact with, we pretty much do just about everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that.
Any other questions?
I just have one question. On the contract services, what does that entail?
I believe it's the deliveries, right?
For the groceries?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for the
okay.
groceries.
That's it, that's all, thank you. That program has grown then a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And you can see
Councilor
that in the other food programs.
Yeah.
The lines are just around the corner.
I don't have too many questions, only one question. And the community event, right?
Yes.
Is that enough money to have a real good showing, or do you need more money?
We're gonna see. We've got our Memorial Day ceremony coming up on Monday, May 27th, and it's probably the most we've ever spent. But it is also the 400th anniversary of Chelsea. Chelsea has a lot of historic sites that without our military service members over the centuries would not exist. So we're looking to really do a really good job. We've got the U.S. Navy Band who's going to be participating in our parade in September. And we've got a couple of good guest speakers that are going to be participating in the program. We've done extra effort for marketing and getting the word out. So we hope we have a great turnout. Weather usually, I can't control that, but if it's good weather, I expect a good turnout.
Francisco, one more question for you. We are the lowest in the state for servicing veterans. We have the lowest amount of veterans in this city. That's including the ones with the soldiers' homes. So how do you all reach to the ones that you have here? Because we have the lowest amount. In the whole state, we have the least amount of veterans.
I don't know that. I'll check.
I can show you the figures. It says it right there.
Yeah, I can check on that, but right now I believe we're at 4.7%. And I know many communities that are less. So that's why off the bat, I
That's not
would
what
say.
that figure says over there, I can show you. The figure over there says we are the lowest, it's counted that soldiers' home.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the question I have is simple. What kind of effort do you make to get to these veterans? How do you notify them when there's, not just by mail? Do you go sometimes and go visit them and stuff, the ones that can't come and see you?
How would I know who they are?
What are your outreach strategies? Is that what you're getting at, Counselor?
Yeah, more or less. How do you get to these people?
So-
Say how you know who they are. Don't you know you would know who the elder veterans are through the list that they have downstairs, the ones that own homes. So you would know that automatic.
Yeah, so
Since you have a list yourself with the veterans, they come to you.
Sure. So the research shows, as of 2020, 82% of veterans don't seek any veteran services in any way, shape, or form. So you wouldn't be able to find out. It's the 18% that we usually deal with. Now, with that being said, we have social media, we send out mail, we go through the newspaper. When they have the sign machine in the square, we do that. Then we have the veterans voter list, but keep in mind, if a veteran doesn't want to identify on the list, doesn't mean we're gonna be able to find out. And if a veteran owns a home and doesn't seek the tax abatement, we're not gonna know. And if a veteran comes back from the service and doesn't apply for any straight services, or the veteran's home bonus, or a veteran's plate, or a veteran's disability plate, we won't know. And that 82%, remember, right now, back in the 70s and 80s, most of the people who joined the service in Korea and Vietnam were veterans that were full-time. Right now, in Iraq and Afghanistan, 50% of the people that served were people who are our reserves or National Guard. So when they come back, they go back to their life of the job, the family, and they don't seek any services. So it's a little bit more challenging. But we're trying. We're definitely trying.
That's the only question I had is how you go to try to reach these people. That's it. You know what I mean? If there's any extra, like Madam President says, the outreach, even to go out, out of your way somehow, if the city can do more for them. That's the question. I want to really, what can we do more? That is the bottom line.
We can always do more, but keep it in mind that, one person to 400, it's kind of a little bit challenging right now.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, we'll move on. Thank you so much for your
Thank
work
you.
and all that you do in our community.
Thank you, Francisco. Next up is our library. Lisa is our new director of the library, and she will walk us through the budget. For the sake of time, maybe we just go with questions. That's okay with the council?
Yeah.
And this budget, the library starts on page 230 in the budget book.
Awesome. Okay, do we have any questions from the council?
Unless you want to share.
If we don't, it's okay. We're good. Okay. Lisa, this was quick.
Thank you, Lisa.
Very quick. Lisa, thank you so
appreciate
much for all that you do for our community, and I can tell you that your work does not go unnoticed. I do see a lot of our youth actively participating and excited for the stuff that you offer at our library, so thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
All righty.
Oh, sorry, 1 second. Councillor Sanagate.
Having served on the Board of Library Trustees for 14 years and actually having learned to read at the Chelsea Public Library, it's a very special place for me and for my family. And I just wanted to say that you have really made a smooth transition into the city, and The programs that you offer are wonderful. I know it's not easy to have a busy public building, and you are, you know, people-facing all the time. So thank you to you and your staff for continuing the great work, and I love the library.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank
And
you.
we love the library. We will move to Recreation and Cultural Affairs with our director present. We start on the budget book at page 236. And yeah, but for the second time, maybe we just go with questions. That's okay with the council.
Awesome. Okay, Councilor Jimenez.
So I know that in the conversations that we've been having around the youth sports, there has been kind of the idea of an athletic director of some sort or equivalent position. I'm kind of curious, as we're thinking about, you know, this coming fiscal year, where does that maybe lie? Is that something that could potentially be added? I'm just kind of curious, like where that conversation as it stands right now, how are we thinking about it in terms of like financial impact?
Thank you, Councilor. I will say that this budget conversation began in January, right? The budget was due to the council in May, and really the hearts of the budget numbers were put together in February, right? So it's with that said, we are having a lot of conversation with Devin, with B, with Ned. We want to be very mindful of what we do. We certainly don't want to rush into this. I will say that we are close. We are close, and with the help of our Deputy City Manager of Finance, I personally feel very comfortable in funding this position from ARPA. As I shared last night, I feel like the aim, the goals of what we're trying to achieve with this position are very much in line with the goals of ARPA, which is providing increased recreation, increased use of outdoor space, increased benefits to public health, certainly increase to youth. So we are almost there. Our goal, I think is to come before the council, probably not for your next meeting on the 20th, but ideally for your meeting on June 3rd with a proposal. And the proposal would be to fund it as a pilot, if you will. And I don't want to say a pilot because we are going to be invested in the success of this position, but as a bridge funded through ARPA.
That's really helpful. And then would that position, like, as it stands right now in the conversation, be under this department as well?
I think that's part of the conversation that we're having, right? Where does it sit physically, but also where does it fit from a policy standpoint, right? I will personally say that there's a very exciting conversation happening in the city, which is the idea of a community center. I think you know, part of what's happening with our initiatives is that we need somebody to drive that bus, right? And right now I certainly don't have the bandwidth to lead that effort, and neither does Michael or Devin, right? So I think there is a gap there that could be filled with this position as well, which is essentially being the champion or maybe the driver of the idea of a community center. I think it's something that we all want, and I think that it's something that has garnered a lot of support from private entities, charities, and also from the state. So, but it's probably in the nuts and bolts that we got to figure out where, for example, how it's funded, who pays for it. It's a lot of really good conversations that need to take place.
Got it. That's really helpful. Thank you. I will keep my comments because I know we're running low on time, so I will keep it to just questions.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other questions? Councilor Brown and then Councilor Garcia.
Hey, thank you for being here. Can you just describe some of the youth programs I see you requesting
Sure.
close to 40,000 for the next year?
It's very nice to be here. I want to thank you all, and I wanted to say that I believe that 2024, the fiscal year, was really a pivotal year for the city, and especially for recreation. There's some normalcy that has happened this year from having a pandemic that went from 2020 to 2022. And so we find right now in the past year that it's just feeling a lot more normal. And there's many purposes of a recreation division or department, but one major key purpose is exposure. And the Chelsea Recreation does this by providing programming in 3 areas. Programming that is, first of all, accessible, number 2, affordable, and last but not least, it gives a variety of programs to children. And so we have about 216 programs right now that are a year, 3 program guides that go out seasonally. So a fall, winter, a spring, and a summer. And right now we have almost 90. I thought it was a little bit less than that, but we're doing really, really well in providing programming for infants all the way up to adults. And we have 2 schools that we are in from 4 to 8:30 at night, Monday through Friday, Williams and the Clark Avenue School. But we also have branched out to the Chelsea Community Commons, also to the Salvation Army, because as everybody knows, space is really, really difficult right now. It's very, especially during the winter months. And so I want to say in terms of programming, we put a book and a guide in each of your, hopefully last night I brought it for you to be able to see programming that we do. And to be able to know that we go 6 days a week, and we're also going 48 weeks a year. I mean, we have an amazing staff, and I have a dream team of a staff working.
How many instructors do you have for these 90-plus programs?
Probably every season. That's a very good question. I would say probably between volunteers and part-time paid, maybe about anywhere from 12 to 20, depending. We have a lot of volunteers, too, that help in our programming as well. And then we have also around 5 to 7 ESOL instructors. ESOL continues to be a very, very, very important program, almost close to 600 in the 3 seasons.
And what's some of the appropriations for the contract services? What does that money do?
The contract services.
Yeah, it's line. It's in 2023 it's 13,000. In 2024 and 5 it's 10,000
The
more.
contract services for like swimming.
No. Is that what?
I
No.
don't know what you're.
Contract services, this line, we're trying to pull it up.
I think the contract services. I have it right here.
It's on page 239.
Sure.
It's only a $10,000 difference from year. I'm just wondering what will that cover this year?
Yeah, facility contract for athletic programs, arts and culture amount. Well, remember that we receive $100,000 from the Encore for arts and culture programming. And so we also pay for Community Pass for our data, for the databases that we have, and also for Zoom accounts, educational licenses. So that's where a lot of that money goes to. The athletic programs in terms of facilities, we have to pay for Salvation Army, we have to pay for the cost of the Chelsea Community Commons, and so the money goes for that as well, to subsidize the cost of using that for our community.
My last question. So are you over the hours of the basketball court on Williams, the Williams Brown School, the hours of operation?
The hours of operation, again,
outside.
So we're inside, it's 4 to 8:30,
Correct,
Monday through Friday.
But outside, there's a basketball court outside.
So it's going to be, it's opening up. That's a very good one. We've opened up. We're opening up with good weather, and so it's opened up the entire time. I remember, Councilor Brown, a long time ago that you were one of the main people to help get that open for the community. So yes, it's open the hours that we are open.
So what's the hours, though?
Again, for after school.
Yeah, because I know as we go into the summer months, folks are always complaining it closes.
Yes, it's probably I can take charge of 4 o'clock until 8:30 at night. We usually kind of even close it down 8:45.
Okay.
So,
all right, thank you. Appreciate your work.
Thank you. Councilor Tanaidi Garcia.
Hi, B. My question's about the arts manager position. What would that entail?
So that's an excellent question. In 2019, we used a portion of the Encore funds in order to pay for consultants to come in to do an art and culture strategic plan. They were amazing. We're very, very happy with that plan. They put a lot of time and energy into that plan, and it is posted online. It's been there since 2021. And the recommendation was to bring a full-time person to come in arts, culture, and creative economy. And so during the last year, also with Mimi Graney's departure, we were having meetings with the Mass Cultural Council, and our program officer who oversees Chelsea also was a main advocate to say that there's a lot of monies and funding that are out there, and this is in other cities, a lot of the other cities, mainly Somerville, Cambridge, Salem, are being able to, really, it's fruitful what's going on with that position. And so thanks to our city manager, we're going to be putting forward that person's going to come, hopefully.
Go ahead, Devin.
I have a brief update on that. We successfully conducted interviews in the last 2 weeks with 4 semifinalists. 2 Chelsea residents are moving forward into finalist interviews.
Beautiful.
Yes, and I'm excited that Bea and her team and the consultant and the cultural council did the legwork to put together a phenomenal strategic plan that all of the applicants had actually read and researched before their interviews, which was very impressive. And I'm very proud that position will live in the executive office, as it does in many cities, so that the real value of the arts can shine through and serve as a way to kind of connect all of the departments to the arts and culture function.
I love that. My next question. Thank you for that. That was beautiful. Thank you. And I'm glad 2 Chelsea residents made it to the finalists, so that's a big deal. Recupero's not here, but he would be proud.
Someone tell him.
I will tell him.
That's right. You heard his name. Oh, God.
My last question, the 2 part-time facility coordinators, why 2 part-timers?
Because we're looking at them mainly to help us with the supervision of the fields in the summer. One, it's under 19 hours. One person would be Monday through Friday from 5 o'clock to 8, and then we would have that person for 3 weeks doing weekdays, and then we'd have the other person do weekends, and then they would flip. Just to be able to have good oversight, especially with Highland Park right now. The Highland Field is opening up in July. We're very excited about having this beautiful, $3 million plus field.
So that park will be ready when?
We hope.
Yeah, we're hoping that by the end of June it's going to be fully open. It is on schedule.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it's
Very
looking-
exciting.
All right. Thank you. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
You're welcome,
That's it.
everyone.
Councillor Recupero.
I ain't got too many questions. I only got one question. How you doing, B?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Okay.
That's
I
good.
love
Thank
what
you.
I do, and I'm really, really happy and looking forward to the future.
One of the questions I want to ask you is, how is everything working with these leagues? Is everything working okay with them?
We have a personal relationship with every single league, and so we're very lucky to have, I really do have a dream team. Alex Zavalla Montoya has his background in sports management, and he, along with my Bianca Servion, who's our support coordinator, and Abby Feldman, we meet with them in order for scheduling, to talk about the sports fund, which we're very thankful to this committee for. And we're hoping to, spend a majority of it by the end of June, and also for scholarships as well. We meet with them personally, and we basically help them from inside and outside. It's facility they need the most. They want to have more facility. And that's just the most challenging question of all.
I ain't got too many more questions. That's it.
Thank you,
Have a nice night.
Councillor Taylor.
Welcome. Thanks for everything you do. I've watched the kind of evolution of your department, and I feel you've done a great job on a lot of this stuff and bringing a lot more programs, especially for our kids.
Well, Councilor Taylor, because of you, we brought back, it's true, martial arts, and your daughter worked for us a little for the Cervises and New Energy Martial Arts. So many, many children have really reaped in the benefit of that, and we thank you for it.
She is a black belt.
Thank you, Counselor.
But I look forward to you joining our subcommittee on youth sports so that we can get your input. We had a pretty good first meeting, and you know, I won't belabor it because that's not for this committee. But I do look forward to your input on this and how we can kind of do the best we can to kind of rebuild our youth sports in this, because it's vital for our kids to have somewhere to go, something to do, positive interactions with each other and with adults, and learning, you know, skills and discipline and how to listen and how to learn and how to be part of a team. So it's so important. So I appreciate all the stuff you've done. It looks like most of the change of the salaries is due to the new positions. So I don't have anything else other budgetary things. So
Well,
thank you.
And I
Appreciate
do look forward to the subcommittee with
Yeah,
a
great.
presentation.
Counselor Teshi. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, B.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. We're going to continue with questions on this side.
As you know, I'm a big believer of taking kids out of Chelsea, and we've had this conversation plenty of times. I'm wondering why we don't organize taking kids to a baseball game, a basketball game, a hockey game. TD Bank has a section at the Garden where they let kids go in at no charge to them, Dunkin' Donuts. I wonder why we're not taking advantage of things like that.
I think we certainly can take more of an advantage. When we took over, when Chelsea Recreation was launched, in 2018, 2017, about a year and a half, 2 years later, pandemic came. And now, and I really do want to say during that time period, things slowed down. But I do agree with you, Councillor Robinson, it is so important to get children out of the city and to be able to get into these phenomenal sports facilities that Boston holds. We do have a field trip to Fenway Park. We're looking at possibly going to even Gillette, hopefully in the future, but it's nothing like going to a game, and I think that's what you're saying over and over.
Right.
I know the school department has done some of that, but we certainly can look at having more and being able to, if you know people to call. We did call some resources that was given to us here, but it was very hard to get tickets. But if you have those resources, we're more than happy to make those calls and try to put that together.
Well, I know that for the Boys and Girls Club did the RBI League, and they had the Red Sox Foundation that came out, and they gave every kid a glove and a shirt. And I had a conversation with Gina and John Montos about taking on the Little League, because we sent a number of kids over to Everett, which was very disappointing for me, that we didn't have a chance as a body to weigh in as to stepping up to the plate to make sure that stayed here in Chelsea.
Yeah, there was no softball or baseball league at that point, and State Rep Judith Garcia gave us the name of the person who's head Little League in Everett. He called us and said that he had 85 positions or spaces open, and he really wanted to fill them. And so we did speak with him the other day, and there were 17 children that did come over there. But they're hoping we're hoping come the fall that we're working with them now to be able to get stronger and to have a baseball team here. And hopefully with the RBI, that will get larger. And we've talked to John Montez and to the Boys and Girls Club staff with the hope that we can be able to have baseball happening on our side.
Yeah, because before we can get to a community center, we have to have the youth programs very well organized, else they're not going to go to the community center.
Yeah.
So, you
got it.
I think that's something you need to think about.
All right. Any more questions, Counselor? No? All right. B, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thanks, B.
All right. City
Up
managers, just
yeah.
get us right through. I didn't pack
Absolutely.
pajamas today.
And lining up to pitch in the ninth inning, Cheryl Watson-Fisher, our closer for the night. Ms.
Yes,
Budges-
so I have a monologue I'd like to do.
Oh.
Don't do that to us.
The law department starts on page 86 of your book.
Yeah. Do you want to throw out questions or just me to give you a little rundown about the law department this past year? So we're proud because we helped successfully transition in our new city manager, and we helped keep the ship steady for the past year or so. The law department also, and just so everyone knows this, with a law department, with a municipal hearing office, with a licensing department, we do special events in the city, manage the public spaces, and claims go through the city. So we do a lot of stuff out of the law department. What we started, and which will be a goal for next year, and is the Problem Properties Task Force again, which I know councilors are concerned about what's going on with some of these homes that are even worse than just habitability issues. There's a lot more going on, so we're very involved in those. I have been involved in the opioid, we call ourselves probably more of a mini task force, Floor, Dan, and Ned, and I, to make recommendations to the city manager as to how to spend the opioid funding that has been coming through. The law department has been involved in the settlements and making sure that we're getting the funds to the city. And as you know, we have been spending a lot of time on celebrating and hoping all of you will celebrate the Chelsea's 400th year. So legal-wise, we do the public records in the city, the school records. We are now replacing a position. You will notice that's in there, just more of a support staff position. We've hired a Chelsea resident. Also, we've actually promoted someone from within, which is nice, who wanted an opportunity to move up. So our budget hasn't changed much. If there are increases in our budget, it's because the contractors and the vendors, providers are, it's like 10% across the board. I think you've heard this year that the prices have gone up.
Okay. Any questions?
Here is higher than the other ones, and I'm just curious like how much of that is just like regular union, because I don't see any additional positions. So I'm just curious about where that's.
Yeah. I'll take that one. When I got here, I realized that there were some department heads that were severely underpaid. The city solicitor was one of them. And what I did is I compared the salary for the city solicitors around us, particularly Everett, Cambridge, Lowell, and it was a strategic decision that we made at the time, myself and Almi, our superintendent, because the salary for the city solicitor split. But
that was my next question.
We pay for 65% of the city solicitor's salary, and the school department pays for 35% of the salary. And we realized that we wanted to keep Cheryl, right? I mean, we want to keep the institutional knowledge. And as I said earlier, we want to retain with a smile, right? We want all of our staff to be properly compensated with their peers, right, of the market. And essentially what we did is Almi and I made a decision to appropriately compensate the city solicitor's position based on peers in neighboring communities.
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Brown?
Thank you, Madam President. I got a question regarding the opium funds. I'm sure many of us heard the stories on the news and throughout the Commonwealth about communities having the funds and have yet used the fund. Yeah. Can you give us an update on how much funds we have available and what we haven't used?
Thank you. So When I got here, a few folks actually reached out to me immediately with that question because there was an article on the Boston Globe, right? And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately,
They're still running it. It was even last week they ran it.
Chelsea was at the top of that, right? And it said that Chelsea had received close to $2 million and hadn't spent any of it. And it was true. It was true. We were in the planning phase. So it has been a major priority, as Cheryl said, for Cheryl, for Ned, and for Dan Cortez. So what we did is we held several community sessions. Well, one is we came to the council, I want to say in March, and restructured the way that we can move the money. Right, it is not our money. It is settlement funds that are very restricted in how they can be used.
Right.
So we came to the council in March. Thank you to the council for passing that restructuring. Cheryl, Dan, and Ned have held several community meetings, and we have launched a competitive process because it has to be that way from a procurement standpoint, where entities are allowed to apply for use of those funds. So that application process is open right now. Once we receive that application process, we will again have this task force, Cheryl, Dan Cortez, and Ned Keefe, review the submittals and really hone in on what the strategies are going to be. And we want to be very diverse in the strategy. We don't just want to fund response. We also want to fund prevention, right? We want to fund a lot of youth engagement, right? We want to make sure that we're not just putting out fires, right? That we are actually preventing the fires from happening. So we are going to be very intentional in what we fund, but I make a commitment to this council that a lot of the funds are going to be awarded by the end of June.
Okay, is that something that the city council can sit on? So I know we have the authority to make those fundings, and all those entities that you just spoke of, you can do it right now. You can give it to the navigators. We know it has to go to certain things, but like you said, the youth, the prevention. And we heard so much earlier tonight about, details of how many folks have had overdoses and how many, So that's the prevention part. I'm just wondering, is there a time cycle that we're gonna like to let these funds go?
Yeah, the structure of the funds is we received a lot of them up front, right? So we have a substantial amount of money now, but in 3 years from now it is going to level off. In 3 years, it is going to level off. However, we will continue to get the funds until 2036. So it's almost like we have a lot of money right now, and then it's going to flatten out, right? And it's going to be consistent. We don't want to build a cliff, right? But we also want to get the money out. So we're being very mindful in the way that we structure it. Most likely, what we're going to do is we're going to give different lengths of grants, right? So probably a couple of 1-year grants, a couple of 2-year grants, and a couple of 3-year grants, so that, for instance, any organization doesn't receive a ton of money and then hire all these people that in 3 years, we're not. It's not sustainable. So we want to be very mindful of it. I am personally not being very involved in the process for a very mindful reason, right? I want the experts to inform us what to do, and our city solicitor is very involved as the person that is going to make sure that this is done appropriately, ethically, and without any issues involved.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to follow up with you, Counselor, on some conversation, if that's possible, just to see what you're thinking. I mean, you don't have to do it now because for time's sake, but I would like to, through transparency, to have a conversation just to let you know, let the council know what the city would like to do as far as following up.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
Councilor Danaidy Garcia.
Quick comment. You deserve this pay raise. Your workload is crazy. Fidel, thank you for taking that into consideration and actually doing the homework. Very well deserved. Your workload was and is insane. And then on top of that, a huge celebration of the 400th year here in Chelsea. So kudos to you. You deserve it. Thank you so much for all the work you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor.
Any other questions? Councilor Robinson?
You opened a door for me, so I'm going to hold this group to it, about prevention. And that's the way that we're going to be able to get those kids, get to a Red Sox game, get to a Celtics game, get to a hockey game. You got to get them out of Chelsea. They got to see other things. You got to get them on the college campuses. All right? There's plenty of times. Actually, I've given to the athletic director who played football with my daughter at MIT. I said, get the girls' team. Come on a Saturday over to MIT. She'll have her girls talk to the kids. Let them know what it's like about. To get to this level, you got to study. You got to open your books. Kids don't hear that, a lot of that here in Chelsea.
All
We
right.
got to change that mentality.
All right, thank you. Councilor Recupero?
Yeah, I got a couple of questions, not too long, too many.
Hold on.
Legal services, what is that, the amount of money we pay people?
Legal Services pays for outside legal counsel when outside legal counsel are handling some of the litigation or specialty cases that we have.
And another one, property task force, what is that, something new you want to do now? What is
Actually,
it, to help the people here?
I believe the Property Task Force is something we created that we had years ago. So the task force is made up of several city departments: fire, emergency management, ISD, the law department, sometimes housing and community development is always there, and we may bring the police or whomever we need.
What is that?
What do we do? So
What is the purpose of it?
So the purpose of it is sometimes we have a problem property in a community where tenants are living in just filth or mold, and we do a team approach on how do we fix this building, but at the same time not displacing people or making a property owner rich by getting rid of the tenants and then they building luxury units. So it's sometimes about a property was flooded. We placed the residents into a hotel. How do we get them back into that apartment building, or how do we fix it quick enough?
So more or less it's like a shelter for them.
Well, we're trying not to do a shelter. We're trying to tell a landlord where their resources are, or take a property from and most of them are slum landlords, which some of you may or may not know do occur in the city.
What is that called, receivership, right? Are you trying to?
That's one of the tools we do have. Is we go to court, we appoint someone else to make the code corrections, and at the same time take care of the tenants.
What if you got an older person, right, they can't afford anything?
So,
Does the city give it to them for free?
So all
Or
of
does the
these.
city send them to a bank, and then the bank owns their house, or the city goes to them and says, okay, I'm gonna help you fix your house, but then you gotta pay me back? Is there any program to help the old people? They can't afford these things?
So what we.
I really don't believe in receivership, because that's another way to take someone's house.
Okay, so that is a method to, it can lead to taking someone's house, but 9 times out of 10, what receivership does is make sure that the tenants, so if it's a property owner and owner occupied, you won't be in receivership. What you will have to do, though, is to make it safe. So if you were a property owner living in a single-family home and your deck fell, the city would try to find a way to help you fix that deck and/or fix it, or make sure you have another form of egress so that you don't use that deck.
Have you taken any houses in the city of Chelsea for
Counselor?
receivership?
For receivership?
Have you taken any houses for that purpose?
For receivership, yes, we have over the years.
Okay, Councilor, I'd just like to ask you to keep the questions related to the budget.
Well, it is, property task force. Receivership, why receivership is not part of it? Is receivership part of it or not?
I mean, receivership is not something that is done on a whim, right? It is something that it's a legal process and would take a long time. And honestly, in some cases, counselor, there's some people that, probably can't take care of their lives.
I know. Why I ask this question is because when you start doing property task forces, there will be part of it. They will go in and there will be part of it. I understand what that's. It doesn't say you're going to take it. The whole point I wanted to make was a simple one. What if you get an older person, they can't afford these things, do that, the city will help them get, how would they help them? Would they give them money and this, without like a forgiveness program, or would they take their homes?
So, Counselor, we don't put an individual's home into receivership if they reside in it. We do not do that. That's not what receivership is for. Receivership is to protect the tenants. So if it is an income-producing property for someone, regardless of their age,
So
if
I-
they're
I
elderly.
understand. So-
Okay, so individuals who have problems fixing their property to make it safe, sometimes we do have CDBG grants and funds that can be zero interest to help them fix their deck or bring the property to code. We do have some programs if the grant money is there.
Yeah, I mean, we heard loud and clear from this council that the city needs to get tough on landlords that are not responsive.
I understand.
The goal of this task force is not to take people's homes. The goal of this task force is to hold
understand.
people accountable.
I get what Michelle is saying. This is for more or less for big landlords that don't live in their units that are slumlords. Is that what is
Basically, we're
practically?
not gonna let them collect rent on uninhabitable space.
Okay,
So
I-
they're
I-
not losing their property,
but-
they're losing their, you know what I mean, profit.
I understand that, but the whole point I was trying to make is because sometimes within the cracks, innocent people fall within the cracks. So is there some type of measure to protect the innocent people that are not part of that system?
So we do provide services. We have a lot of mentally ill property owners. We make sure that there's services. We inform the courts. The courts give them plenty of time to fix it or try to get services for them. So, yes, there will be a crack here or there, but we make sure that it's not somebody who lives alone who can't afford it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Taylor.
Thank you, Cheryl, for all that you do for the city. I know you do a lot of work. I have no questions on the budget. I think it's been answered and, you know, so no budgetary questions. I'll pass it along so we can end tonight's session.
All right, Counselor Teshi.
No questions.
So we have two more budget sections. I will go through them very, very quickly. The first one is on page 247, which is judgments. That one is funded evenly at $50,000 every year, and it really depends on how many judgments we get. So it is basically a reserve. We put $50,000 in there. Sometimes we use it, sometimes we do not. It does depend on every year. Like I said, it's more like a reserve, but they are overseen by the legal department. The next one and the last one for tonight is going to be on page 112, which is licensing, and it is a department of one, I believe.
Well, yes, me and the administrator, yes.
Right.
Department of One.
Department of One, which is Naomi, right? Naomi Libran, who is also a Chelsea resident.
Yes, long-term for life.
Long-term Chelsea resident, works in Cheryl's office. This is a move that was made 2019?
2018. Yeah.
Where licensing used to be in the city clerk's office, and in 2018 was moved into the law department. Naomi oversees all licensing aspects, as well as the license commission.
Questions?
Definitely, let's move with the food truck ordinance revision.
Food truck ordinance.
Oh, food trucks.
Yes.
So,
No,
prior
I'm just
the
saying.
changes?
I'm saying like, let's do it.
Oh, you like that as a goal?
Yeah.
We need it. We need it. The current ordinance is very strict. It doesn't allow, the prior council didn't recognize how restrictive it could be.
Counselor Garcia.
Last question. For this department, are you guys looking for extra, like, is she okay or is she overworked, Naomi? Like,
So,
does she need a part-time?
she has her moments, right? But the position that we just hired backs up, helps out support-wise with her. And also the general, like Jessica, who's the paralegal office manager. So this one position actually helps out both.
Oh, good.
We also have a community engagement person. If we need someone to go out and really explain to a business they need to shut down, Miguel Sandoval will help us out with that. So yeah, it's a busy office, but Naomi is
She's a rock.
She's great.
very, very good at what she
She's
does.
great, yeah.
All right, seeing no other questions, we can move on. That's it.
It's a wrap.
We can do more. We can do more.
We made it. We made it. All right, guys, thank you. Have a good night.
Tomorrow.